Pumps it, looking, steps back, in the end zone, touchdown Alabama! Jahmyr Gibbs, what a play by Bryce Young!
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Looking for Johnston now, speaking of big plays, he's got it, and it's a touchdown!
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Williams, and it's intercepted! Cam Smith read it so well!
Cam Smith was all over that play.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Here's Stroud being chased down, but then launches downfield, and that ball is intercepted, bobbling it in the hands of Banks, and Deontay Banks still on his feet and brought down at the 48-yard line.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Across the middle is Slovis. That's a Banacanda. Makes a man miss. There goes Izzy. Izzy! Touchdown Pitt! 24 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, we're back together again. Craig is back, the Dragon. He'll be in and out today with Baylor football practice. Jack McKenzie and Craig will be at open practice, which is a small window, and then the media session that will follow as we close in on their spring game 1 week from this weekend. And as I had a list of all the Big 12 teams and their games coming up, those who have already had them and those who have them this weekend and those who will have them the following weekend. We have a lot to get to. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for being with us. Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross, and Emery Winter all are in studio. Our guests today include former University of Texas and Kansas City Chiefs great Priest Holmes, who this Saturday will be inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Mac Rhoades, Baylor AD. Chuck Cooperstein, who's at a press conference that just started with Nico, who's the president, general manager of the Mavericks, explaining their future and even the last few days. And he'll also have some discussions about men's basketball and more. Patrick Crakes, consultant, media, executive. His thoughts about the Pac-12 and his thoughts about a couple of other things when it comes to streaming and the options linear, just like we've heard from Jim Williams and also Bob Thompson. John McClain, Paul's Top 5, and here we go. Jason Scheer covers Arizona, part of the Pac-12, earlier today. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know the smoke surrounding Colorado is at an all-time high. Well, of course, this led to, my God, Colorado's about to make a decision. They're about to bolt for the Big 12. It all depends on who you listen to, who you trust. But that was an intriguing tweet by somebody who covers Arizona and has also been somebody that has aboard Wildcat Authority with some of the smoke that he's talking about being a part of the message boards there at Wildcat Authority.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and the more the deadline gets pushed, the more that it's kind of curious to me. I still don't think anything's going to happen, but the more the deadline for the TV deal gets pushed into the summer, I mean, that's when all this stuff happens, right? That's when USC and UCLA left. That's when Texas and OU left, and that's when the Big Ten last August got their TV deal. So all those things, they happen in the summer. So the closer you get to the summer, the more nerve-wracking it gets because that seems to be the calendar for these things happening. Now, I guess we'll see what happens when it happens, but I'm curious to see what Jason means about the smoke around Colorado moving, like what exactly that is, or it's just people in that fan base that are getting antsy.
Well, he didn't say moving. He just said there's smoke about Colorado.
No, that's what it exactly says.
Is that what he said? Is that the quote right there? Oh, Colorado moving at an all-time high. I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Actually, I just knew it was about Colorado possibly looking. I didn't see the word moving, but that, of course, makes a hell of a lot of sense. Craig?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, just like all the other, tidbits and pieces of, nuggets that have been dropped by various people over the last few months have been interesting. Just kind of put it all in a pile and, make of it what kind of a recipe you want to. It's sort of what I've been doing all along. I know others do it differently. They take everything at its maximum value or word, and I just kind of, digest it, and I still remain more leaning towards we'll see what happens than getting any sort of, hopes up. And I don't have my hopes up for a move, but I don't it's even with that piece or any of the recent pieces really start to get the hopes going that, somehow there's going to be this monumental shift. But I'll tell you this, everything that keeps, being reported or everything that keeps being insinuated, it does lean more towards the sowing of doubt than, having more confidence that this is all going to be okay and dandy. At this point, we were a month ago talking about an actual school president saying that it would be a layup to pass the Big 12 in their rights. And now here we are, and we're talking about Ion TV and the CW and how many games they could carry and whether or not they're actually even truly interested or not, or what kind of slice of the pie they might get. And all the while, there's rumors about these other networks or companies, and some of that's clearly been some blustering and bluffing, and some of that's been I guess legitimate. But here we are, and I know that there's no timetable except for the fact that they start to draw closer and closer to the summer, which draws closer and closer to being a year out. I understand the Big Ten did their deal very late, but this is not the same situation by any stretch of the imagination. I saw that comparison brought up a couple of times while I was gone, and the difference is that they were having to turn people away. This is now turning into who wants to be at the door to begin with, and we've seen some fall to the wayside who could re-engage, but it's pretty clear to me that any type of I guess idea that they could somehow drive the market price up or leak something to get others like sharks in the water to want to get all in on the pack. None of that seems to be working because we're at a more dire place than it seems like it's been the entire time in terms of the number of options at their disposal. So it seems like there's a deal they could take. It's just not one that, as I'm sure you all have talked about, is all that enticing. So remains to be seen, obviously, where we're headed with this. But, I'm still on hey, they stick together and they find a deal and all of that. But my confidence level in them actually, going up to the Big 12's numbers and being heavily competitive in that regard, I'm starting to have some doubts about that for sure.
Yeah, and again, it's just a part of the deal. And Jason Shear, who covers Arizona, also somebody just mentioned in the chat room, he put out a note, something about loose lips, sink ships, whatever that might be. But Colorado, I'll tell you this, Brian Etheridge, who's one of the owners of our site, one of the partners, has really, when everyone has looked at, if in fact, and we are of all of the opinion, let's just, so we're on the record again, Craig just said how he thought. We think in the end, I said that today on a podcast with Josh Neighbors, who covers the Big 12, that I still think in the end, whatever's in my gut, that somehow they kick the can down the road, they'll be okay for at least the next 3 years or so. Paul, is that what your thoughts are? Do you think there's going to be a breakup?
Yeah, because I think there's more interest in a couple of parties staying together than there are in it breaking apart. Now, again, the longer this draws out, the less likely I feel about that. But yeah, I think that right now, it's just there's only certain conditions that would be right for a move, and I don't think that those are good for everyone because, if everybody's not going to the Big 12 or everybody's not going to one spot. So if a few teams are going to one spot, then where are the others going to go? And, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal, in particular, are not just going to go to the Mountain West because they have no other options. They have to wait for that option to be open. So I think you're probably looking at the next TV deal because so much is going to change between now and then. I mean, a lot's changed in the last 3 years. A lot's going to change in the next 5 because the playoff might change twice because we're going to have 2 years of the first wave of them doing it with this kind of addendum to the old contract, and then you would think that they'll work out some bugs or things that they perceive to be bugs that they don't like and then change it again. So then you're going to have to morph what you do and what your organizational strategy is as a conference and at school and all that. So, yeah, I think that there's another shift coming. I just don't think right now is completely right. But if I'm looking around trying to plant the field for realignment, the soil looks good, but it's just not ready.
Well, and it also could open up that soil elsewhere, too, including whatever happens in the future with the Big 12 or other conferences not named the SEC and Big 10. That's truth. That's legitimate to at least say that. So that's Jason Scheer from earlier.
If the Big 12 had $60 million per team per year, then I'd say the Pac's in super trouble because I don't see how they would come even close. But I think with the Big 12 making 40-something, that it seems like they could at least reasonably get within arm's length of that. Now, I know that that's not covering the exposure piece, and we've talked about all this ad nauseum. The exposure piece is starting to become more and more foggy as they go from seemingly one outfit to another, and we can kind of start crossing some of these off. I know John Alrand had the report that the CW is not involved, and then today Dennis Dodd saying the CW might have a sliver of the package, and so I don't know where that stands on that, but I do know Alrand had said that they were basically ruled out. So I mean, that exposure piece is starting to be a little bit more of a question mark, but yeah, I don't think it's they're going to be offered 15 per. I mean, that would be, obviously something where you go, okay, that's less than half the money. Then that would be something you go, okay, even with all the other academic money and all those types of things, that would be a pretty dramatic drop off. But that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, so I'm still sticking with that. But yeah, it's as the days go by, and I know that there's chaos agents and all of that, but I mean, facts are facts. And when you're talking about this network's not going to carry it, and this one's not going to carry it, and this one's not going to carry it, and the picture starts becoming at least somewhat clearer. I mean, I think to have said over these last few months there's nothing to it is complete BS. And there clearly is, some struggles going on behind the scenes. But yeah, whether it's enough, I still don't believe that.
The CW was something reported by theathletic.com with Stuart Mandel. Max Olson was part of that article. And Mandel, in the article, mentioned that the CW had emerged as a new potential partner. John Alrand yesterday saying that sources telling me that CW reps did hold initial talks with the conference, but those talks never got serious. The Pac-12 expects to wind up with deals that combine traditional TV with streaming, but there's little chance the CW will end up with those rights. Bob Thompson earlier today said that that is about, or was as in as possibly even Ion, which was reported, I believe, by Brett McMurphy, who was involved. They could have talks. That means there's something, but that doesn't mean that they'll continue on. Jim Williams mentioned something about the CW, but also mentioned in that some of the landmines that could be also in the way. Now, the ACC, Jim Phillips. This is a conference, of course, that has been pretty quiet, although there's been a couple of its members that have said, hey, there's a little squeaky wheel here because the amount of money, we've got to be careful not to be left behind, including from the start of the last month or so, Florida State and then others. Jim Phillips signs a 3-year extension as the commissioner of the ACC. What does this say in a way? First of all, congratulations. What does this also say? Because wasn't the Big Ten someone that was interested in him, we would think, because he'd been a part of that discussion before?
Yeah, I think that, because he was the AD at Northwestern before he took the the ACC gig to take over for John Swofford. I think it says that the ACC wants some consistency in these uncertain times, although they've got the most certainty of anybody because of the grant of rights. It is interesting to me. I mean, some of these contracts are shorter than you would think for conference commissioners. You know, in the NFL, like Roger Goodell seemingly has like a 700-year contract. I know that that's not true, but it just kind of gets.
Oh no, it's not, because the owners sometimes will try to cut both of them off if they could.
Well, one owner. So, but the rest of them seem to like him. So, but it's 3 years, and that gets them, down to less than a decade in the grant of rights. So maybe then they can look at something different then. But I think that, they want a little consistency. I think that's what it means the most. And maybe, I wonder if Jim Phillips, because he's not clearly not a mover and a shaker like Kevin Warren is. So if he was up for the Big Ten job, would they have wanted him because they want somebody who's a little bit more, let's keep the shit pointed in one direction?
What do owners do when they fire a coach? They usually get the different opposite personality, correct?
Yeah. But Kevin Warren wasn't fired. He left. So do you want a guy who's Kevin Warren light, or do you want something else? I don't know. Or maybe Jim Phillips had never really gotten that far down the road there.
Yeah. So he's now the ACC commissioner, at least extended, and good for him, because that conference, again, has been pretty quiet other than what we had from Florida State, North Carolina, and a couple of others recently.
Yeah, I mean, good for them. Times out well that there's still plenty of flexibility depending on how the waves roll in. 3 years from now, he's not locked in like the conference itself to some ridiculously long-term deal. So that's nice to have some security, but also some freedom not too far in the future just in case things go wonky. But, what is the Big Ten going to do as far as their commissioner spot? That's what their big question remains. And not that they necessarily were all in on Jim Phillips, but that was clearly a name that was talked about and thrown out there and just made sense. So, very interested in what they do and what that person's vision is for the future, because along with, Greg Sankey, that's going to be, two of the biggest, most influential people, powerful people in college athletics, whoever that person is when they're named. So they will have, without a doubt, a hand or a finger on the blueprint of kind of the way forward in so many ways, because, he's going to be the voice of those Big Ten schools. So, that's an important spot. We saw the impact that Kevin Warren had. Not that the next guy necessarily has to change the face of football, out west the way that Kevin Warren did, but there are changes afoot everywhere you look, or at least potentially in the works, or as possibilities out there that you can see in the not-too-distant future. So that person's going to have some workings with all of that, and I'm very curious who they decide should be responsible.
All right, so Garrett, Bob Thompson, I mentioned his tweet. I just sent you a note. Did you get that one? Bob Thompson made the comment actually talking about CW. They may be the only ones, CW and Ion, not talking to the conference. And then Jim Williams, who mentioned CW before, you're right, anything is possible at this point. We don't know who is talking to the Pac-12. We should wait and see how that ends, and might be surprised who is part of the deal. My point was CW and Ion are at least legit outlets. If you're looking for exposure, you've got to find it somewhere, even if it may not be the alphabet that you want to use when it comes to whatever network we're talking about. All right, Kliff Kingsbury's back in college football. He will be joining Lincoln Riley. He was the offensive coordinator at USC for how long?
A week?
18 days, I think it was. Maybe even that long. He will be coming back to USC as the quarterback's coach for Lincoln Riley and gets a chance to coach Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that's an incredible hire. I mean, that's really interesting to see Kingsbury join up and as a quarterback's coach. With a mind like Lincoln Riley, that's just a pairing that you didn't necessarily expect you'd ever see together. Certainly going against each other, but not on the same side. And Yeah, that's just drum up even more excitement and fervor for Caleb Williams' development over this next, several months, and before, he inevitably enters the NFL draft sometime next December or January, whenever that exactly is. But yeah, that's a great hire on paper. He's been away. I'm sure he's learned some lessons in Thailand and his travels that perhaps can be applied to the football field. But regardless, he got a little bit of a break, and this won't be too high pressure, I don't think, because for one, you're not exactly trying to, turn trash into treasure. You've got a guy who's pretty solid gold already, and just make him better. And you'll have Lincoln Riley helping you out with that, among others. So yeah, that's a very entertaining hire and a good hire for USC, it would seem.
Duke's Kyle Filipowski is coming back for another year. On the same day that he makes that announcement, Duke loses perhaps their top-rated player, who was a part of the class of 2023, Mbako, who's a big-time player. I mean, one of the best players coming out of high school. He then enters the portal. Why did he enter the portal? Filipowski's coming back.
Yeah, because if Filipowski's back, then his playing time's going to go down. And I mean, he might be in the portal, but he also, there's a lot of talk about him just going right to the G League and all that. This might be, his convenient excuse to do that if he doesn't want to go play at Duke, which, I've said many times, if you don't want to go to college, don't. You're going to go be an NBA player, professional player. There's rules out there that work out for you, so don't do it. But I think that's what that's about. And I guess we'll see where he might wind up. I'll tell you this: he's going to make money wherever he goes.
Yeah, he's a good player. Transfer portal news: the Cavender twins made a lot of headlines. Made some money, played at Miami. They announced that they're no longer going to play basketball. They could have come back for one more year. They are leaving to pursue something else professionally, and I'm sure they will probably be in a position to market something or have a business. And so that decision, one door closes, another door opens. The Cavender twins are now heading into a different part of their life and journey and trying to get into a different part of what they do with the business and no longer a part of college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, at least for right now, I'd say they've got to probably be on the early Mount Rushmore for NIL, right? Mm-hmm. Say them. And
that's a great top five.
I don't know who else you'd throw in there. I mean, there's so many I'm thinking of already in my head from rumored about, Tennessee and Nico Ameliaba, or
wouldn't Rashada be a part of that list just because the story?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many names already fluttering through my head about just Miami alone, and they're part of the Miami part of it too. Olivia Dunn at LSU. There's a number of people that
Quinn
Ewers probably deserves to be. We don't know officially. That's part of the mystery.
Bryce Young's getting Dr. Pepper.
Bryce
deals,
Young.
So.
But I think that no matter who else you put on there, and I don't normally do the Mount Rushmore thing, but I think the Cavender twins would probably have a great argument to be on there for this first stage of NIL and college athletics, and they were. From best I could tell, I didn't religiously watch Miami basketball by any means, and I'm not a TikTok person, so I'm not their audience, obviously, but they were fine players, but it was very clear that their future was not so much in, like, the WNBA making tons of money. It was going to be in whatever, form of entertainment they would pursue, beyond that. And so this doesn't really surprise me at all. I know they had an NIL deal with WWE as well. I'm not sure if they're, interested in that. It seemed like one of those things that was kind of the WWE scouting and also getting some of the promotional the promotional response from it as well, of just signing the Cavender twins and getting that sort of attention. And I don't know how much that's actually a move they'll certainly make, as much as it was just like a little splash thing there. But that door's open for them, and I'm sure there are plenty of others that we're not even aware of. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, I'm wondering, just from Life Wallet's perspective of getting in trouble with the NCAA, whatever speeding ticket that really winds up being, and then Miami only getting a year out of it. Like, was it worth it to them in the long run? Like, did the Cavender twins in their year at Miami bring enough exposure to the university and the women's basketball program that was worth it?
I don't know how much money they got paid, but I would say that they definitely got the number of impressions and things like that they were probably looking for. Now, I'm not the expert on how much that matters to that athletic department and what kind of money is worth it to get whatever many millions of impressions they got by simply having them on the team. But, yeah, I mean, I thought about that as well. I thought about, they did go on a deep run. It wasn't necessarily due to the Cavender twins, and it certainly wasn't them, solely. I mean, one's a better player than the other, but they had other players on that team that were a big part of what they did. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Did Nigel Pack, was that worth it? It seems like they went on a deep run and probably was. On the football side, Jaden Rashada, was a messier situation. So, I don't know. That's a whole little unique thing down there on South Beach, NIL-wise, that will be certainly the subject of some books in the future, I would think. And when you talk about the Mount Rushmore, to bring it back around to that of just NIL stories and those that we look back on in 10 or 20 years, I mean, the Life Wallet, John Ruiz, who I hate even saying his name, but Miami Athletics Department will certainly be one of those under the microscope that we look back on.
All right, a couple of notes from the chat room. Mr. Guy, Caleb Williams, back-to-back Heismans. Roger Dodger, offense going to be turbocharged at USC. Defense still needs work. John Bolster, why has there not been any denial of the move by Colorado? I really haven't followed him.
Because
sometimes that doesn't mean if you don't deny it, that doesn't mean it's true, or it doesn't mean I don't know if you have to respond to that.
Because if you start to answer Twitter questions, then when does it stop? Then you're addressing every single rumor under the sun from Joe 75. Hey, I heard a rumor, and then you have to address that. I mean, you don't have to do it, but if you open that door, then I think you open yourself up, and why give it any more steam, especially if it's not something that's true or that you want out there being discussed publicly, whatever the case may be. By answering it, you just pour fuel on the fire and just open up Pandora's box. So I think the smart move is definitely to just whatever's going on, whether it's nothing or whether it's something, let people run wild with their imaginations, but don't put yourself in the mix. Just keep yourself out of it.
From Edward Looney, if you're having trouble, and I don't know if this is towards the Pac-12 or the Big Ten, because it's kind of the combination of what was in front of him. If you're having trouble getting the existing carriers to open time slots for you, what do? Open a whole new set of time slots. Brilliant. Is that in reference, you think, to CW and ION, or is that in reference to what the Big Ten did by getting out to the West with USC and UCLA? Edward, if you want to, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, that's
exactly
certainly for the Big Ten by going West, but the problem is the Pac-12 can't just go eat. They can't just decide we're going to play at 9 o'clock in the morning local time.
Right.
Because it's just –
they got to play when there's opportunities for them to be seen.
Yeah, so – I'll just and if you say why not? There's certain bridges that you don't need to cross because that would be desperation of sure, we'll be on ESPN at 9 a.m. Well, is ESPN going to get rid of College Game Day all of a sudden because UCLA or
the only time they could name their times of when games will start is if it does go to streaming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then you can play at any time you want. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. You could have three games going on at one time.
And CW would be he said. He said CW is a whole new set of time slots. Yeah, because you could have two really good ones there on the CW. But I do still think that's not what they want. They don't want the CW. They don't want to have to do something new and that crazy. It's probably easier for them to just say, look, we're going to go mostly streaming and let Apple or Amazon sell it back. But I don't know.
You say they may not want CW. We really don't know if the CW wants them either, just because they've talked.
But you just showed a tweet from Bob Thompson basically saying that even if they're not talking to them, they're the only ones that aren't. I mean, There's a ton of people, despite the way that it looks, that are clearly talking to them, and he would know as well as probably anybody, and he's basically saying, well, if they're not, then everyone else, they're the only ones that aren't. So, take that as you will. Certainly I would take that as a positive if I was a Pac-12 person, and not so much of a positive if I was somebody hoping that they're going to run out of options. It seems that there are plenty of interested parties. I just don't know if they're interested in being around, to the extent that the Pac-12 wants them around, but maybe as some sort of a combination, that's what you end up with. I don't know, but I think the CW ION part of this is kind of played out at this point because clearly this isn't like the death knell for them.
All right, then there's the Masters. Craig, normally with Off the Radar, will do a lot of the television numbers, whether it's college football tournament in the NCAA or in the NFL. CBS Sports, 16.25 million combined total viewers for the coverage of Sunday's third and final round, which was a continuation from the third round on Saturday of the 2023 Masters. Sunday's presentation, 16.25 million, most watched golf telecast on any network in 5 years. The 2018 Masters final round had 13 million and averaged 12 million viewers, up 19% from last year. Viewership Sunday peaked at one point at 15 million between 6 and 6:15 Central, 7 and 7:15 Eastern, and the most streamed round of golf ever on Paramount Plus, while recording double-digit year-over-year growth across households with minutes, average time watching, etc.
That last note seems like it's a little bit of a fun with numbers, because how long has Paramount Plus been around?
Like 2-3 years.
So like they beat their record from last year and the year before. But I mean, not to take away, that's great news. Y'all can cover the rest of the tidbits there. But I think that one's definitely like, that's PR right there, is the most streamed on Paramount Plus, which has been in existence for 2 whole Masters at this point. But all that other stuff seems like it's pretty good for sure.
Yeah, and the last round was really intriguing and interesting. It was, John Rahm charging back. A lot of people, I would assume, that weren't, and look, Sunday at the Masters is always the round where the casuals tune in for sure, right? You may not watch Thursday because it's during the week, and Friday because you're going to miss a lot of that. Not like Smokey, who builds, most of his day around Thursday and Friday at the Masters, so we can watch most of it.
I do. If I can. Yep.
So, but it was a really good story. You had a live golfer that was in the lead and dominating.
By 4.
Yeah, and dominating, and then out of, and from behind, here comes John Rahm, a guy who wasn't. It's like they traded. Like they passed each other at a point, and like whatever putting mystique that Brooks Koepka had, like jumped out of his body and went into John Rahm's.
Yeah, no, it did. It did. And that's happened. And you hear about it, and you're okay. Some guys just take the lead and they just extend it. The amount of roars that you heard on Sunday, also at the end of the third round, but throughout the day, Sunday afternoon, is what you hear as one of the most memorable things about being on the grounds on a final round at the Masters. The roars, the placements of the pins where the holes are allow for some unbelievable shots, and then also for some tragedy when it comes to golf terms. But it was one, the roars I heard were very similar to the ones that I was fortunate to hear by being there on the grounds. It was electric, and great numbers for CBS and also the streaming numbers too.
Yeah, and I don't know when the golf rights are up for the PGA and all that, but I mean, that's another, one I saw Bob Thompson in a random tweet that was, talking about watch out, the CBS Sports, here's NBC Universal, that's great news. Everybody's looking at ratings and just figuring out, especially if you got TV rights deals coming up, of how much of the pie is left or how much you can take. And so that's great news for the game of golf. I thought that it would have been interesting, but it would have been weird to see a live guy win, and that's going to be inevitable at some point.
Yeah.
But I mean, for it to be Koepka potentially, I thought that was like, oh man, that's going to be brutal. And then it looked like it would actually be a better chance that Phil could be the guy. When he started searching, I was like, oh my God, if Phil Mickelson wins the freaking Master, that would be, and obviously it didn't come to that point, but man.
We mentioned this yesterday, Craig, and and we do need to break. Priest Holmes at 4:00 today, Mac Rhoades 4:20, is that I thought that the way and how Koepka answered questions, even from after the round on Thursday, on his decision, and how he was very honest. One of his biggest problems is he's always been brutally honest, very transparent. Sometimes you almost wish he wasn't, but there are still a lot of people mad because he left. But him saying that had he felt the way he does now, back when that decision had to be made, probably would have perhaps been a different decision. But he does not regret the decision he made. But in other words, he felt like he could never get back to where he was because of the knee problems, the injuries, horrible surgeries, And now he's at that point or close to it. And you wonder then, it's like, man, if I knew I was going to get back to this point, I would have stayed there. But he's happy. He's making a bunch of money. And he played very well. And I don't think that the live thing about, well, they only play 54 holes. Koepka faded, but I never saw it as anything physically. It might have been a mental wear down, but Mickelson surged. Patrick Reed surged. So it wasn't as if the live golfers, because it was 72 holes, fell back in the pack.
He was still driving and approaching. Like, he wasn't putting anything in the water. Couple things in the sand here and there, but I mean, at the Masters, the sand's not the worst thing that can happen to you. So
here it is. This is how much room for error you have on some of those greens at Augusta National. You hit it here, it's close. You hit it here, it's going to go the opposite direction, and you have to chip from off the green over a couple of buried elephants. Yeah. I mean, it's almost really in that way.
Yeah, I'd almost rather be in the sand sometimes.
I think Koepka had a rough Monday. I think when he got up and started realizing the opportunity that he had, he's like, "Oh man, that was a big one that I missed out on."
When we come back, I'm going to try to explain. I had some who have asked me, "Hey, what's going on with Baylor men's basketball?" L.J. Cryer is now at Houston. Obviously, Dale Bonner entered the transfer portal. You haven't really seen too much about what's incoming, although they have a very elite class, a freshman class, and there's even some smoke out there that an incoming transfer is coming to Baylor. But to kind of put what they're doing in perspective, and it's not just Baylor trying to reinvent the wheel, but schools like them. Not a private school or religious school, nothing like that, but those who don't just have all of the money in the world to throw at players. And really, what are some of the decisions being made? I'll have that and Paul Catalina's concert segment next on 365 Sports. So Saturday, after playing a round of golf, went by Don Humidor and Coffee Beans. Cheyenne was there, walked into the 48-foot humidor, and started saying, I want two of these, I want two of these, I want two of these, and I want two of these. To get the cigars that I wanted to use or smoke on Sunday morning, but also to have some for my humidor, which has been kind of like barren. I just don't have a lot of cigars in there. So I got a couple of Oliva. I got a couple of Fontana. I got a couple of Astons and a couple of Macanudos and a couple of Arturo Fuentes. And Cheyenne was fantastic. I walked out with a big pack of cigars. They're in the humidor, ready for the next time I play a round of golf and the next time I want to smoke a couple of 3 or 4 cigars during a round. And they have what you need, a 48-foot walk-in humidor. CBD products. She always asks me, are you good when it comes to your gummy bears, your Vita Dreams? And I am. And when I'm not, I'll be back there to get more. It's a gummy. It allows you to fall asleep without being restless. It allows you, and by the way, the gummies are about this long. You learn if you want to have one, a half of one, whatever you need. It doesn't drug you. It's a CBD product, but it does allow you to kind of just chill. And it allows you to gain extra time sleeping, which all of us need more of. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center off both Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco.
Your springtime experience begins during the Jeep Celebration event this month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Save big and get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,500 on both 2- and 3-row options. Or if that isn't enough, get a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $5,000 in total values. Plus, first responders get an extra $500. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the new custom Jeep of your dreams at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef, and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
You know, it's fun every once in a while. Sometimes it's not always fun because if we have an opinion people don't like, which is, hey, we give our opinions based on what we think. We don't give them because we want you to react because you don't like them. Some of you agree, some of you don't. But I go on the replay and look at some of the comments, and they're really, really good. Most of them are really, really good. So Andrew Laughlin on Twitter last night sent this to us. Paul Catalina was talking about concerts in Ames in Manhattan, even brought up Lubbock. And here's Andrew. I'm sure it's been mentioned by someone by now, but just getting caught up on the 365 Sports segment when you guys were talking about your mark and concerts or whatever. Manhattan, Kansas was host of the Country Stampede for what was over 20 years with huge country artists coming to perform, and then he gave a list of them. Also, we're used to concerts in Ames. There was Farm Aid there. Paul McCartney was there. Metallica, Kiss, David Lee Roth, Turnpike. I don't know who that is.
Turnpike Troubadours.
All right. Whitesnake, the Beach Boys, Cody Jinks, Luke Bryan, and on and on and on. And then also some of the other responses. That's Manhattan, that's Ames, that's Lubbock. And so those cities, when we discuss some of the concerts, they all have had big-time names. And I thought that might be the case, but I wasn't positive because I don't really follow much when it comes to concerts.
Okay, then I stand corrected. And I will tell you this. I'm very jealous of you because I've lived in Waco nigh on 20 years, and my parents 10 years before that, almost 10. And this city sucks out loud when it comes to buying tickets for concerts. We are awful at it. It is something we cannot, like, you cannot tell the populace when you have an event, like, please buy tickets in advance, because they're like, well, I'm just going to buy tickets at the door. Like, okay, then there's
not everybody in Waco talks like that.
But the people who buy tickets at the door do. And because tickets at the door means that the act is not going to come back because you didn't sell before, so they don't get their money until later as opposed to getting it before. So maybe that was a little bit of me projecting on the absolute concert hell I'm stuck in here.
Okay. Well, Ames
Lubbock,
in Manhattan, et cetera.
Lubbock, I could have told you, has had plenty of people roll through there. That's in the normal circuit. I don't know if they get every band that rolls through Dallas, Houston, and Austin, but they get a good number of them. So, yeah, I'm sure, especially, I mean, you got these basketball arenas to hold things like that, and it's in the middle of Kansas, and, you know, I mean, where else are you going to go? I mean, I suppose that, you know, you could go to a specific place, and, you know, we're only going to Des Moines in Iowa, but I mean, hey, if Ames is going to show up and sell it out and whatever, then yeah, college campuses make a ton of sense, especially for certain acts. But yeah, I mean, here in Waco, I think that's the outlier, not the other way around. And, you know, that can be said, that goes for almost anything that is, you know, as far as, you know, sometimes games, just getting people to show up is like pulling teeth, and it's not apples to apples because it's not the same type of fan base that you have in Lubbock or the same type of fan base you have in Ames. It's very different and unique to itself and few other schools. So, you know, there is that part of it as well. But, yeah, this is not a concert place by any stretch. And I'm curious how the new basketball arena changes that, if it changes it at all. I mean, they're clearly going to want to host events, but what's going to draw and what are people going to show up for? Are they going to draw the big country artists that everybody's going to, you know, pour into the arena and fill it out? Or is it going to be just more of the same? They're going to have to figure out how to help pay that thing off. So, they're going to have to do concerts and things like that. Yep. So hopefully they can draw some people that are going to, you know, put butts in seats.
All right, so Baylor men's basketball lost LG Cryer to Houston. Dale Bonner's in the transfer portal. They really, nothing really other than what they have with their class of 2023, and three of those guys were a part of that Hoop Summit this past weekend. In fact, the kid from Duke that is now wanting to rescind his national letter of intent was a part of the Hoop Summit as well. So what is Baylor men's basketball doing? I think there's a quote that I received from somebody today: silence can be wisdom. Now, sometimes silence can create a vacuum. I saw Bob Thompson use that earlier about the Pac-12 and silence. But silence can be wisdom. So I asked somebody, right now, I think what Baylor's doing is they're circling the wagons because the ceiling of the NIL has changed. What everyone thought was the ceiling last year would settle this year. That hasn't happened. The ceiling has gone up. At some point, there's going to be a market, what do you call that, when it kind of gets back to itself. So right now, do your analytics.
Market correction.
Market correction. Analytics. Whatever budget you have, what is your patience level on making sure you worry about what Adam Flagler's going to do and Jalen Bridges? If one or both of them come back, that answers two of your questions right there. Yeah. But you got to be careful because that may take some time. But I'm being told there are plenty of players in the portal at the highest levels of the transfer portal that are very much, their radar includes Waco, Texas, and wanting to play for a team that just 2 or 3 years ago won the national title.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to have a problem getting people or wait. Like this is not a team that's in kind of rebuild mode or transition or anything like that. This is a team that's now one of the premier basketball programs in the country with a premier coaching staff and all of that. So. I mean, if you want to make your decision really fast, Baylor's probably not in that loop. But if you have some time to wait on Bridges and Flagler and just kind of want to see where everything is, Baylor's going to be a great place for you. And if Bridges and Flagler come back, to me, you really only have to get one thing, and that is your new, villain.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're going to be able to win many of the first to 10 million types of players. Maybe they outbid everybody else when it came to Keontae George's NIL. But I feel like they can probably do that maybe once a year for one guy, if that, every single year. I guess if you have the Keontae George type guys interested, then you'll do what it takes. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of pull here, but there's also that element of it as well. I'm not worried about them attracting talent. But the NIL piece is, obviously a major factor. But I think that to the best of their abilities, they can pony up and put together a very fine championship-level roster with certainly championship-level coaching. It's just that there's, a bit of a transition now, and, who saw L.J. Cryer, making the move that he did? I guess it was kind of talked about, but it's just, it's a time of transition, a lot of questions, so I can see why people are a little bit nervous.
All right, so here's another thing. Now, this is from – I sent this out to some high school coaches and also kind of contacted some guys who were in college athletics, whether assistant coaches or football coaches or whoever else. One of the things that's happening right now with why the transfer portal is important, you guys know this, how many on average? There's 360. Garrett, I'm going to let you answer first. 363 Division I men's basketball programs. On average, how many players per roster are in the transfer portal right now?
Oh, I would say 3 per roster.
Okay.
Probably 3.
I'd say 3 per roster.
Craig? Paul?
I would say 3 to 4.
5 plus.
Jeez.
On average. Now, there's some rosters it might be 0, 1, or 2, and there's some might be 8. On average, 5 plus. That's 1,500 players. If I'm doing my math, maybe 1,600 players are in the portal. And one of the things that's happened is even if players enter the portal and really are not looking elsewhere, what are they getting? Attention. Infatuation. Nothing they do right now is anything but right. And nothing they do right now is wrong. Everyone's perfect. Everyone's right. Everyone's good, right? Yeah. Because you're getting the attention. And that's one of the things that we see. Okay, there's 5 plus in the portal. How many of them in the end will actually be playing basketball next year at the same level or higher? And that remains to be seen.
Do you mean like kind of how when you sign your recruiting class, you just assume everybody's going to be the best version of themselves, and you don't ever go like, well, this class is kind of okay.
Yep.
You just go like, nope, top 15 class, this national championship upcoming, and you don't realize, like, you don't even acknowledge that 3 years later, 15 of the 22 signees are no longer even on the roster, and 4 of them aren't even up to star rating, and 3 of them panned out. Is that kind of what you're saying a little bit?
Everyone gets to go and get re-recruited again, and they get all the bells and whistles and the perks and all of that and the attention like they did when they were coming out of high school, and now they get to do it as freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors.
Well, I mean, that's the way it works, for better or worse. I definitely think that there's no absolute here. It's not like it's all bad. It's definitely worked out well for some. I mean, a guy who ends up
for Scott.
Like if you're Royce O'Neal and you're starting your career at LIU,
Denver.
I was thinking of Torian Prince actually, but or Torian Prince, LIU, Brooklyn, and then you end up at Baylor. Like that's where they belong. They're both, Torian's still in the NBA.
Royce is too, right?
Yeah, Royce is still. Yeah, you're right. Royce is still there. I don't know why I'm getting those guys all messed up, but yeah, I mean those are 2 examples of a lot of guys who clearly, for whatever reason, whatever it was that didn't get them highly recruited to begin with, or people back off, or whatever the case may be. I mean, they're getting that bump up, and that's deserved. That wouldn't happen without the transfer portal necessarily. So I think that's great. Guys who deserve to be compensated are being compensated, but I mean, I think in any industry you look at, there's going to be those attention seekers. And I think in today's world, as old man as it sounds, I mean, it's the TikTok generation. We know the deal. We know that everything's about how many, likes and all that. So that's part of the equation now. I mean, whether you like it or not, the days of like the quiet athlete or any of that kind of stuff, that's all overboard now. That's way in the past at this stage. So you better be able to embrace and work well with those types of personalities, or you better have just a very stoic and focused and not about the attention type of a roster. But it seems like those are going to be kind of hard to put together.
All right, so there's a little bit of that. That is who and what Baylor's dealing with. But so is Virginia Commonwealth, or so is Kansas State, or so is even some of the schools that may have the heavier and higher numbers to use in the NIL. The market correction has not happened. At some point, perhaps it will. Craig Smoak's on his way to go watch football practice. We'll be back a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, I only got 6 practices left before the end of spring ball, so I want to check out as much as I can. But yeah, I mean, that market correction, I think that's another mistake by college leaders, was to assume that, it'll correct itself. Sounds like, kind of waiting for others to do the job for you, or for time to do the job for you. And, not realizing like, oh no, you don't realize this is like a whole new business. This is not going away. This is only going to explode and grow into a whole nother mammoth gargantuan thing. So another pretty poor miscalculation thinking that was all just going to settle like dust.
The hay's out the barn. Go ahead, Craig. Craig's at practice now, and Jack is there as well, or on his way, and we'll have Baylor Media coming up after their practice ends about 6. Paul Catalina now, and I will join you for the rest of the show until Craig gets back. By the way, Priest Holmes, former Texas great, Kansas City, maybe in the days of when fantasy football really exploded, was as good a running back in fantasy football league history.
Oh, I mean, he was a guy who, if you had him, you were in your championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was so great at it. Also, I think one of the guys who put a more, and I'm going to ask him about this because I think he helped a little bit because it's hard, but when a guy was holding out, a lot of the narrative around him from fans was like, that guy's a jerk. He just wants money. And Priest had a very good way of saying it, like, look, man, like, this is, for me, like, my window of making the most money I can is this long. I have to do this.
Especially at his position.
Yeah,
Paul.
I mean, but he was better at it than most because, like, a lot of times you think of a holdout, you think of T.O. doing sit-ups in his driveway, which is all about, the look at me. And Priest was just more about, like, no, fundamentally, I'm telling you, I just need to make the most of what I can when I can.
When his contract came up, which I don't know if it was 4 years or 5, he had 4 years in a row. In all of his career, and he played like 12 years in the NFL, whatever it was, he had 5 years where he played 14 games or more. Played 7 games, 9 games, 8 games, 7 games. 2008 was injured early, didn't play at all. Played in 4 games his rookie year. His last year, excuse me. The last 4 years, he played a combined 19 games because of injuries, because he had some bad injuries, but he was an alpha, no question, with Baltimore and then with Kansas City. And former University of Texas star will be inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame coming up this weekend. Adrian Peterson's a part of that list too. Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball, speaking of which we did, the Baylor basketball team is a part of that on Saturday evening at 6:30. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress. Your comfort is what the priority is at his business, Stonewood Dental. One-stop shop for what you need, from the simplest of what you need when it comes to teeth cleanings every 6 months. Fillings, crowns, sealants, periodontal therapy, root canals. I've had a couple of those. IV sedation available, extractions, fluoride, implants, bridges, dentures, partials, and treatment for TMJ. Full mouth restoration, biostatic dentistry. Dr. Steve Childress has served our country, and he serves you if you need dental work, and he has taught me a lot when it comes to my dental maintenance, and it has been amazing. Being smart, being really, really smart, a little bit late, playing catch-up, but Dr. Steve Childress has given me what I need when it comes to a game plan, so to speak, for my dental work. When you need an appointment, that's great. You can contact them online, stonewood-dental.com. You can call them, and I'm telling you right now, if you get an appointment, and you will, whether it's a teeth cleaning or something more, they are going to make sure you remember, confirm it, and sometimes you like that. No, they want to make sure you're there because they want to help you. It's an amazing staff. From the time you walk through the front door, even before that when you get your appointment, to the time you walk out. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
I remember Priest Holmes because I love high school football in Texas, and then, of course, what he did at UT, what he did at the NFL, and what he's going to be doing this Saturday, induction into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Priest Holmes joins Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak on 365 Sports. Priest, you've been honored a lot, but when you got that call to be inducted into your home state's Hall of Fame, what did that mean to you?
Well, originally when I got the call, I was super duper excited. But at the same time, when Jay Black had actually emailed me, he originally told me that I was going to be inducted into the Texas Hall of Fame, right? So I was a little confused because I had already been inducted to the Hall of Fame for the high school Texas, the Texas High School Hall of Fame. So originally, I was waiting for the prank call for him to call me back and say he was just kidding, he made a mistake, it was the wrong person. And then he told me, no, Priest, we do have the high school, you were inducted to that, but now you're going to be representing the state of Texas. So it was truly an honor to get that call. Very excited. My family will be in the house this weekend, and we'll be driving up from San Antonio, Texas, and it's going to be a great time.
So this step being, you've got and there's a great class. I mean, Adrian Peterson, another great NFL running back in there with you. You got a little Texas OU representation there. Your career was so interesting in that you kind of raise your level every time you got a chance to, NFL and college. What was it about you that allowed you to develop in such a nice smooth arc and not really get discouraged?
I kid you not. So right now, today, I'm actually helping some veterans. We're feeding veterans here in San Antonio, Texas. But it comes to mind when I think about how I can answer your question. Because of all these veterans that I see here and because of the military background that I grew up on, there was one thing that I did when I was a young kid growing up before football even existed in my life. I had to clean the baseboards in my house. So I had a military dad, military mom, had Air Force and Army. And I'll tell you what, they said something about that discipline, something about the patience that it comes with in putting your ego aside and cleaning baseboards every Saturday morning. It does a lot to you. And I think for when I really think about it, I go back to that saying and saying that the way that I was brought up and the discipline that I was given at an early age, I think that all played a part in why I was able to take advantage of the opportunities when I was given those times, because I played with some really, really great backs at that time, and they did a lot of great things. But at the end of the day, whenever I had an opportunity to excel or given an opportunity to showcase my talent, I always stepped up to the call.
So you were a part of a military family as a military brat like I was, right? Paul's dad was in the Army. My dad was Naval Academy but went to the Air Force. So we relate to you, Priest.
Absolutely. Now, the only part that I didn't participate in is I never lived on base, and then I never really ever traveled anywhere. Once my parents were stationed in San Antonio, that's kind of where home was. And we didn't live on base. But I'll tell you what, a lot of the discipline came into that household as I was growing up. You can believe that.
San Antonio is a place where you could be at 5 or 6 different bases because there's so many of them. You were at Kelly, or your dad was stationed at Kelly, right? But you lived off the base?
Absolutely. So my dad was at Kelly Army Base, and then my mother was at the Lackland Air Force Base, which was literally within 10 minutes of each other. And then, of course, you have Fort Sam as another base that you have in the city. So we've got about 4 bases that I believe that are in San Antonio. And like you said, it's dominated by military presence here in San Antonio, and lots of great kids come in here too that come from all over the country.
And I was at Randolph. My dad was at Randolph.
Yeah. So in this interview, you got Randolph, Lackland. My dad, when he was at before Vietnam, was at Fort Sam. So we've got them all covered.
We've got them all covered.
That's right.
It's a great. Priest, as a running back, it's a window, the NFL, your career. It's a very tough position, longevity. You played quite a bit with the Ravens and then the Chiefs. What was it like when everything was just perfect? What was that like to be running for the kind of yards? And someone even mentioned, please tell him that he was is maybe the greatest fantasy football league running back of all time.
Well, one of the things was the major change was because when I was playing for the Baltimore Ravens, truly I was not in the right system. Although I could run between the tackles and get you as many yards as I could, that was only going to last so long because you have to remember in that AFC Central, we had backs like Jerome Bettis, Eddie George, Corey Dillon. We had Fred Taylor with Jacksonville. So you had big backs that were averaging over a height of at least 6'1" to 6'3", Eddie George being at 6'5". And then these backs averaged 235 pounds. So, of course, I come in, I didn't fit the mold. And so, and one of the things that Brian Billick would always say is, I want a running back that when he walks down the tunnel, I want him to be intimidating before he even hits the field. And of course, I was going to be intimidated on terms of the size-wise, but it definitely was something that I learned a lot, and I played along some really good backs like Eric Redd and Jamal Lewis and even Ricky Williams in college. And it really taught me a lot of great things. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that just makes the biggest difference is just that I've always told, even when I go talk to kids, is that they can never judge the true size of a person's heart and their integrity and their ability to withstand and have that fortitude. And I think those are some of the attributes that I had that allowed me to weather the storm and then play in those big moments. And then also to be aside so many great running backs, but still able to stand out. And when I had the opportunity, that's when I took advantage. But to answer your question, as I digress, the moment that really made the difference for me is when I hit Kansas City Chiefs, and Coach Vermeil, he made the difference when he asked me, what would you like to run? How can we be successful? How can we put you in a winning situation? Put me on the perimeter, give me a draw, put me one-on-one with a linebacker or a defensive back, and I'll have a lot of success. And so I think that's what happened when I got to the Kansas City Chiefs, because when I was in Baltimore, it was really 3 yards in a cloud of smoke. And that was the way that you had to run the ball.
Well, especially the year that you guys won the Super Bowl, your offense is, you guys kind of don't get talked about a lot because that defense was so unbelievably good. But what was it like being in it that year, of having a defense that, especially when you guys were not humming on offense, that you knew that, man, if we get 13 points, we're going to win this game by at least 10?
Yeah, I think even on that Super Bowl run, there was a number of games. They have that documentary about the bullies in Baltimore. It even talks about several games where there there was times where we didn't even score points on the offensive side of the ball. We were getting field goals, but we weren't getting touchdowns. But it really took the fact that we had a dominating defense, and I think Ray Lewis, took a lot of credit because truly he was a great leader. He was able to get that defensive secondary to play just as if they were all lined.
I thought we lost him for a second. Let's see if we can get him back. It's a great interview, great segment with Priest Holmes, former Texas and NFL running back. We'll try to reconnect with him on Saturday night at the base, which is at the Extrago Event Center in Waco. They'll have the induction. The banquet will be at 6:30 on Saturday night. Priest Holmes will be one of those inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. And as he mentioned, there's a Texas High School Football Hall of Fame, and then there's the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Priest, you were getting ready to say a little bit when you moved to Kansas City and how things changed for you.
Yeah, and so, the one thing I can tell you about is that Coach Ramil always said, be ready to make a audible call at any moment of life. Because it'll happen. And, I know we had to make it just a quick audible call, but one thing that I loved about the Kansas City Chiefs is that Coach Ramil, he was one individual that saw me at one of my last games at the University of Texas, and he made a prediction that Ricky Williams would not be the star of the game, that it'd be this backup running back named Anthony Holmes at that particular time that everybody knows was calling me. And it just made a difference. And I think that when you have great coaches that believe in you, give you an opportunity, and you have offensive coordinators that believe in you as well, if they put you in the right matchup and they give you the opportunity to be successful, I think that makes a world of a difference. A lot of guys, they do get into situations where they're playing in the offense or playing in the defense that really doesn't, suit their attributes. But if you can ever get yourself in an opportunity and get somebody that believes in you, it makes a world of difference.
Priest, you were a part of that 96 Texas team. Is that right? That was the team when the Big 12 was formed. Nebraska was the 800-pound gorilla, and you guys were able to pull away and win that first ever conference championship. What do you think that meant to UT and the conference in general?
Well, it meant a lot because, originally I started off in the Southwest Conference, and then for me my senior year to be able to go into that Big 12 era there for the University of Texas, it was really, really big. And to be able to play a game against Nebraska and knowing just the level of talent that they had, the national championships experience that they had, and that the fact that when we faced them, they were on a national championship run that particular year. Mm-hmm. And for us to be able to upset them and to play the game the way that we did, we kept the game close. And then, of course, when it came down to it where we had to make a big play, James Brown, which was our quarterback at that time, rolled out. He faked to Ricky and I, who were in the backfield, and then he just sprinted out to the left. And then there it is, our tight end, Derek. He was just on the other side of the defensive backfield because all of the defense had came in to attack Ricky and I because they had an idea that we were going to just run the ball for that 2 yards. But James Brown made a beautiful play to Derek, and, the rest is history with that game. The first time we were able to make those guys eat some corn, so we were happy about that.
Well, yeah, they had won 2 national titles. Then they won it again after that. You interrupted what have been maybe what has never happened with anyone winning 3 or 4 in a row.
Exactly. Yeah, we definitely did put the monkey wrench in between what they had, their game plan. But it was one of those things where it was our moment. Obviously, they were all, featuring and focused on Ricky, of course, because of the type of career he was having. And that was early on. The one thing that we always said is that when we were playing there with Ricky Williams in the backfield, we always said Sean Mitchell and I was a junior transfer from Blinn.
Mm-hmm.
We always knew Bucky Gobbo, which is our running back coach. He says, man, as soon as we can get you and Sean out of here and get y'all guys graduated or on to the next level, that's when you're really going to see what Ricky can do. And, of course, once we got out of school there and they put Ricky in the eye and they put a fullback in front of Ricky, you could see exactly what was going to manifest and what happened for his career there as a collegiate player. He went bananas and had an incredible year, broke so many records. And the way that he did it in fashion, especially on some of those big runs that he had to cap it off.
Yeah. Priest, what were the butterflies like in your stomach on that 4th down play?
I think the entire team. Definitely. I wouldn't say that butterflies would be the word that I would describe it. There's a few other words that I could.
Pterodactyls?
Yeah, I could say we were real tight. I could say we were tight. So it was one of those moments in time where, again, we had James Brown as our quarterback. He was always calm, collective, had a hidden chip on his shoulder, and he knew he was a quarterback, and he definitely took control of that. For Ricky and I, it was easy. All we had to do was act like we had the ball and jump in the air and get tackled, so it was pretty easy for what we needed to do. But it was definitely one of those games that we were waiting for that particular moment, and we wanted to do something special, and especially with it being the first year, the inaugural year of the Big 12. We wanted to do something pretty special, and we had some incredible talent on the team. But again, coming from that Southwest Conference, knowing those big games against A&M and Oklahoma were really big, it was one of those times where we got a chance to play an outside team that we had never really had a chance to just consistently play against, unless you were on a play, on a national championship run, to be able to play a team like that, like Nebraska. But that opportunity came, and I think that we definitely were ready for it.
Earl Campbell, obviously Ricky Williams, Priest Holmes, Jamal Charles, back in the day, Roosevelt Leaks, and now here you are with what Bijan Robinson accomplished. Your thoughts about watching Bijan, and probably will be, without question, the number one running back taken in the NFL draft?
Yeah, I'm excited. We've always talked about the University of Texas is always, when I was coming in, it was always running back by committee. So you would have probably one of the best backs out of San Antonio, the best back out of Dallas. 2 or 3 of those guys would be also on the team. And so I played along some really, really incredible backs that have actually had some really great college careers, or they went on to play professionally and have a great career. But what Bijan is doing, this guy got his own mustard name after him, and I heard it did pretty well, and it's incredible just the opportunities that these guys are having, these young kids are having, and I'm excited. I think that Bijan has some incredible talent, his ability to catch the ball out the backfield, his awareness on the perimeter runs, and his ability to stick his foot in the ground and get vertical, and he definitely has the speed. He's a tough player. So I'm excited to see him on that next level and to become a professional. I really am.
Now, you were undrafted, and so the running back position, is one of the ones where you can find diamonds in the rough, maybe more like you, Priest. But if you're a team that has a pick in the top 10 and needs a running back, do you think you'd be crazy to say, no, we don't put as much value on this position? Do you think he's that kind of a game changer?
Well, I think definitely Bijan is definitely the game changer, and he's a distributor. He's shown that. In terms of his raw ability that he has on the field. Some of that stuff that you can't really coach, that vision, the ability to stick his foot in the ground and get vertical, his awareness to be able to come out the backfield and catch the ball 15 yards down the field and still be able to do a 1-2 step to avoid tackles. You can't really replace that. His hunger for the game and the ability of the things that he's been able to do. I just think he's exceptional. And he'll continue to be a really great player. He's just got to be in the right situation. Again, the right team has to be calling and knocking and wanting a player that's dynamic like he is. And I think he will definitely, any team that he goes to, he's going to show and prove and show that he's a great commodity and a great value to have on anyone's team.
Priest Holmes, former Marshall High School football player, played at Texas. We mentioned the Ravens and also the Chiefs. What is a career complete without a Super Bowl championship?
Well, I can't really say that because there's so many, phenomenal players, great players that have played longer seasons than I have, but never had an opportunity to compete for that trophy. Would I say that it's incomplete? No, I wouldn't say that it's incomplete in terms of on the stats, but I think for every player at the end of the day, to have that experience and want to be in a championship game, to be able to contribute or be the main star or be the MVP player of that particular game, like a Patrick Mahomes, that's the reason why you play the game. That's the big showdown that you want to be able to participate in. So it makes a huge difference. It really does. But I think some guys have had some incredible careers, and some guys do so incredible for the things that they do personally on the field. But it's always best when you can make it a team sport, which it always will be. And when you can include the entire program, the entire city, the entire roster, and these guys, start on that training camp a year, 6 or 7 months ahead of time, and then they finish up, on that destiny road to the playoffs. So I've been able to experience that with the Baltimore Ravens. And again, you have to remember, that was the Baltimore Colts, then over to Cleveland, and then came back in '96 to start a franchise with the Baltimore Ravens. And so had some of the older Colt guys that were, some of the older Cleveland guys that were there on that team in '96. But it really transformed once we got to '96 and '97, '98, when we started to be able to really build on what our defense was really going to be. And I think once we got Billick in there as well, his his attitude that he brought to the team, what we had with Ray Lewis and Tony Saragusa and the guys there on the defense really made a difference. And then that big change, for one guy with Banks, which was our quarterback at that time, he was throwing interceptions. He got benched, and then that allowed Dilfer to come in, Trent Dilfer to come in, and then be able to, go ahead and lead us to that Super Bowl win. So it was really great to be able to be a part of that. And I'll tell you what, the thing that I love the most is that a couple of years ago when the Kansas City Chiefs, they went in and they won that Super Bowl, and now they've gone and repeated it again. One of the things that the Hunt family did was they allowed for all of the ambassadors that were ambassadors with the Chiefs. These are former players that played at least 4 years that were now committed to doing stuff in the community. They allowed for all of us to be able to get a ring.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty incredible. So I played for some really great organizations. I really have. Even Ted Marchibroda, which is my oldest coach, he was with the Baltimore Ravens when I first got into the game in 1997. With him giving me my first opportunity, I think it was 4 games into my second season, and Eric Rett went down with a hamstring injury. Jay Graham, which was a 3rd-round draft pick the year that I came out in 1997, he tore his ankle, I believe, in the game 3 of 1998 season. And then Ted Marchibroda came to me and said, "Priest, you remember I told you when nobody's looking, you should be working? Well, here's your opportunity. Both of my backs are down. You're the next up." And so, it was just things like that where I think that when it came time for me stepping up and showing what I can do and the work that I've been doing while no one was looking, I was able to prove that in so many instances throughout my career.
You mentioned, and I know you got to go, and we appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday night here in Waco. That Bijan, the mustard, and all that. And college football has changed a bunch, and including now even Texas and Oklahoma headed to the SEC. We know about the money. It's going to be a lot of money and the brands that they both take with them. Your thoughts about that and the way college football landscape has changed and seems to change every day these days?
Yeah, the landscape of football is changing, and UIL and the different rules and NCAA rules that are happening, and the way that they've allowed now for the marketing for the likeness and image of players that for an athlete that's in school now can really own that right. And so I wish it would have been many, many decades ago, because all we were able to do was pass some keys around. It was these mystery keys that floated around to some rental car, and we'd all pass them around, and everybody had a chance to drive the rental car. But now you got guys now that they have the ability to now go in and they can purchase a car, purchase a home. And it's been really incredible the way that they've opened the door up. So my biggest thing is that, for the kids that you see that will have these wonderful opportunities, there's still going to be about 20 or 50 other kids that are going to get taken advantage of. So I just know that even though those rulings have been in place, I hope that the parents are very involved with these young kids, that as they're going to be able to see these hundreds and millions of dollars, that there's some type of risk management and protection that can help these kids out and manage throughout all this while they're in college.
Texas High School Hall of Fame, about to be a part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, and who knows other things that happen along the way. Thank you, Priest. Great to have you on the show. Congratulations, and we'll see you Saturday night. Will be a great event. Congratulations again, and we appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. That's Priest Holmes, former Marshall High School star. And I remember back then when they made the run, I think we may have played Permian in the state championship game. Lost to Permian in the state championship game. And his name burst onto the scene. And, that running back group that they had. And it's a topic. Mac Rhoades is next. But later on at some point, running back USC has felt at times they could be that. Texas, obviously, in the mix. Georgia could be in that mix, and a few others. Maybe Nebraska with some of the Heisman Trophy they've had. When we come back, Mac Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics. This is 365 Sports. Magnifico Pizzas at Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and also Robinson. Magnifico Pizzas that start at $9.99 each, including pepperoni Magnifico, sausage Magnifico, and the ultimate Magnifico, which is a combination of both. Unlimited medium one-topping pizzas available. Online order by using the code word that's available to you online. You can call, go pick it up. They will deliver it to you as well. Marco's Pizza with Bob Mock, been in the business of pizza selling. He was a driver, has run stores, now owns stores, understands the business, and 5 locations in Waco. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
Welcome back to 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mac Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investment Brokers, Ben Erlinson, Brad Wilson, Cam Heathcott, and Chuck Verno. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
All right, here we go. Mac Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, and news and my sources saying that, Paul, the 3 deer in the back of the beautiful, beautiful view in New Mexico, all of them, Smokey, Paul, and Craig, are still wandering around and alive.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yes, they are, and happily so.
All right, I got a couple of questions about the way college sports and athletics are these days. Have you yet seen any signs at Baylor, or others have spoken to you who are in your position, where the NIL money has affected what you need yourself in raising money for facilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I certainly think they're in conflict with one another. It's a difficult task to do both, and also invest in other areas of the program, whether that's salaries, travel, foreign tours. All of those things require resources, money, support, and then having to find ways to raise money for both facilities and name, image, and likeness makes it difficult. And we're probably one of the only institutions in the country that's doing all of that. So it's been a challenge, but I think we're navigating it. And as I told our staff and our coaches, everyone, this is a 10-round heavyweight fight, and we're going to take some body blows early on, but I think we're getting through it, and we're getting through it because we have great people. We have an unbelievable Baylor family when we think about donors and support system, and we're never going to be a place that is going to be able to, spend dollar for dollar with what others can. And so, we've got to make sure that we differentiate ourselves and that, the money that we do spend, the resources that we do have, that we're really, really strategic with, that we're very, very efficient and smart with. So that's what we're trying to do. I hope that answered your question.
No, it does. And then the part about the NIL, I think a lot of people thought after the first year, maybe a year and a half, there would be some sort of market correction. I don't get the feeling that's happened yet, has it?
that feeling that you have is absolutely correct. And I think all of us want there to be a correction, and I think all of us are hoping there's a correction. And when I say all of us, I think I'm even speaking on behalf of schools that have these tremendous donor bases and are primarily just focused on name, image, and likeness, and have these coffers of sums of money when you think about name, image, and likeness. I don't think anybody likes it or is enjoying it. I think we're going to have coaches if things don't correct themselves. I think we're going to have coaches in the future that are going to get out. Those that have been in it long enough, that have been able to save some money. I think you're going to see some of them get out because it's just not what anybody signed up for. And right now, in this moment that we are speaking, I think it's exploded when you think about name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal. Over 1,300 in the portal for men's basketball, and right now we literally have a pay-for-play system, and we can dance around it, but that is what we're doing right now, and I don't think anybody particularly cares for it.
Mac, it's everything takes re-education of people and learning to do new things, and at the administrative level, as long as I guess people are open to bending, that's probably easier, but you really don't have any control over the student athletes and potential student athletes when it comes to learning about this stuff, right? Is that what makes it maybe even harder, is that you're going to have to deal with someone who has ridiculous expectations, and maybe more of those than ones who just know, all right, well, if I play well, then something's gonna happen for me, or if I'm here, then I trust in the process of it to work out down the line.
Yeah, I think that's Paul, part of the challenge is what's not everything that is said out there when it comes to the name, image, and likeness is reality, and trying to decipher what's true, what's not true. And you have people calling that say, hey, school XYZ, right, has offered, this much. And then, another phone call that this other school's, offered this much. And, I'm just, being truthful and real half the time, 50% of the time, and I think I'm being generous when I say 50% of the time, that's the truth and that's accurate. And, so you just have, unfortunately, this system where everybody's trying to exploit it, and then trying to educate student athletes, trying to make sure they're with the right agents, with the right people, getting the right advice, talking to the right people, talking to the right coaches. It's a lot to navigate right now, and so again, we're dealing with it, I think, in a really good way, positive way. And reality, if you're not in it, if you're not, in this name, image, and likeness space, it's going to be really hard to field competitive rosters. But as I've said before, we're going to stay true to who we are and our value system, and we're gonna have to be really, really smart and strategic on how we do it.
All right, the transfer portal dates for the month for the spring, like a week ago, I guess it was, I don't know, but they changed from what was May 1st to May 15th to April 15th to April 30th. Your football team has a game like right there on the beginning of that transfer portal start time. Does that put like even more stress on not just Baylor, but anybody else? And why would they have made that change so late, or am I missing when they changed it?
Yeah, and I appreciate the question, and I wish I could do a better job in terms of answering your question with the dates, because just sitting on the football oversight committee, there's been a lot of dates that have been thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
When the dates were put in place, I think, it was, giving student athletes an opportunity to move on, to transfer if for some reason things didn't work out the way, they wanted to work out, in spring ball, spring practice, giving them the opportunity to move on. And I think it's really hard. Does it put pressure on coaches, and how they manage it? And again, I go back to Baylor and how we're handling it, and Dave Randa, and there's that example last year when it came back down to the quarterbacks Blake and Gary and how he handled it. And look, bottom line, very simplistic, just do the right thing. Do the right thing for the right reasons. When you think about how you handle spring ball, how you handle your student athletes, the conversations that you have with them, be real, be honest, and sometimes it feels like when you do that, it's to your disadvantage. But I just got to believe that in the long run, it will be to our advantage.
Mac Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us on 365 Sports.
So Brett Yormark did a podcast yesterday with the Turnkey, and one of the things he brought up, Mac, was a concert series coming through. And look, in Waco, that would be something that would make me deliriously happy that we had that. Is that something that we're going to see more of with the new arena and things coming through here in Central Texas? Yeah, that's his vision and the vision of some other staff members. But, again, this idea, this intersection of culture and college sports. And so, open it up with this concert series. And, this first year will be the 4 new schools, and then, doing something different halftime for the football championship game. And so I think you'll see more of it. You'll see, eventually, as it makes its rounds, something, here at Baylor. And then, you mentioned it, Paul, the new pavilion, and, thinking about, ways that, we do some things that are for the
working with the city and for, the Waco community, but also, making sure that, we built that pavilion and are building that pavilion, mainly for our basketball programs, and want to make sure that they have access to it when they need to. And, we don't ever want that to be a facility where we feel like, our basketball programs are leasing it. They are the permanent tenants, and want them to have access to it like they need it, but it'll certainly be a facility that is shared and one that will have some different events.
You have a football coach in Dave Aranda with Mexican heritage, and I saw the note about a Big 12 Mexico. Is there something, I'm not saying that's because of Dave Aranda, but what is Big 12 Mexico?
Yeah, I think, the international market is something that I think the Big 12 has an opportunity to take advantage of, and particularly when we think of football, and the NFL has played in Mexico, and then also basketball, men's and women's, and even soccer, and think that there could be a great connection with Mexico, and certainly exploring that, and think there could be some really good opportunity. What that looks like, still in the process. Is it a regular season game? Is it a bowl game? Is it a basketball tournament? But I think there's more to come, and we're certainly having conversation about all of that.
Mac, the way your program is run, you've got coaches like Scott Drew's deep into analytics. I don't know whether or not Coach Aranda is. Nikki just picked up some transfers, so she's rebuilding her roster. Do you think because of who Scott Drew is and what he's been able to do to kind of change his program more than once allows him to regroup even more now with this transfer portal and NIL era? Is that someone that you would say, I'm going to trust him to make sure we have the right game? I know you trust him, but even so, with what he's done before, even gives you an advantage to handle today's college America?
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think, Scott has and the staff has been really creative over the years in terms of how you build a roster, how you complete a roster, and we've used highly recruited student athletes. We've had transfers. We've always found a way. And so I think, with Scott, he's always going to be creative. He's always going to talk to a lot of different people and seek different ideas, different opinions. I think it starts with the staff, but I think it also goes outside of the Baylor walls, so to speak. And so, I have really, great confidence. We've talked about this, I think, or I believe, when we think about qualities that you want in a head coach, and I've talked about the top three. Well, one of them is just high intellect. And so that's where I've got great confidence in Scott, and I've got great confidence in Nikki, and I've got great confidence in Dave. They're extremely intelligent people, and have great common sense as well. And so they're gonna always figure it out, figure a way, figure out a best pathway. And I think they're also, self-aware enough to know that, one pathway, could work this year, and we have to completely potentially change it the next year. And so this idea of being fluid and how you attack every year and in every situation isn't necessarily always the same. And so those are the conversations that I get to have with those three individuals and challenge them. And again, they're really, really smart people, and I'm certainly glad that the three of them are leading those three programs respectively.
When there's a fight in the air, let's say with countries, and it's like a war, and they're called, the fighter pilots are up in the air and the enemy's up in the air, they're called bogeys, right? When someone else gets in their area. Do you feel like if Gonzaga was a bogey on the Big 12 radar and not an enemy, but on the radar, is that radar, that blip, even closer now than it was when that name first came up?
Wow. That's quite an analogy. And,
I'm so bad. Oh God.
I think it's, I think it's probably, in the same place it's always, it has been for a while. I think you're still trying to figure out what's going to happen with some other schools and what that looks like. But Gonzaga, because of what they've done, particularly obviously in men's basketball, is a very, very attractive institution. Certainly because of basketball, but I think also just as an institution, very, very attractive. And I think Big 12, we still have our sights set, in that direction. I don't think we've taken our eyes off, but that doesn't mean anything, is imminent. I think some things still need to play out before we ever make any decisions in terms of membership.
Last question. We know the Pac-12 is still trying to figure out whatever their future might be. What if you have conversations with other ADs at a convention, at the Final Four, at an NCAA, at the Big, wherever it might be, where you are on the boards or the various things you do outside of Baylor, what is considered just sharing information and what would be considered tampering?
Wow, that's a really intriguing, interesting, insightful question. Look, this is a small industry, meaning that if you've been in it long enough, you've developed a bunch of relationships and have friendships, and so I think some of these conversations are two friends just talking about the future of college athletics, the future of conference realignment and membership, and then sometimes those conversations when appropriate become even more specific about a particular institution and or about a particular conference, etc. And so I think you try to balance that. You certainly try to be respectful and do it the right way. And I feel like the Big 12 has done that. And any conversations that have been had are two-way conversations and not one-way conversations.
Mac, thank you for your time as always. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mac Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics at 365 Sports, with us mostly on Tuesdays. Thanks to Lauren Smith for always juggling his time and what he does and what his opportunities are and access to us. All right. When we come back, Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Dallas Mavericks, but as we have said many times, as thorough and knowledgeable about every sport imaginable. His thoughts about the Mavericks their last few days. Nico, the president, I guess, general manager, had a press conference. I'm sure it's over. It started at 3 o'clock. His thoughts about the Masters, his thoughts as well about men's basketball, and a couple of other notes. This is 365 Sports. Pioneers still in pipe. 1943, they opened their doors, and here they are. It's 2023, 80 years later, and they're as strong as they have ever been. Stronger, bigger, better, faster, and stronger because they have a new facility that has been built on the southeast part of Waco, which is Highway 6 and Loop 340, just east of 35. they had a place, a business, a location that had been around forever. Basically 78, 9 years or whatever, opened up a new location. They have a 2,500 square foot showroom. They have more space available for more product, different lengths of product. In fact, new welding supplies, hardware for the do-it-yourself components you need that you are doing it yourself and or the professional contractor. Quikrete. You can now get your post, pipe, hinges, latches, concrete for your fences and gates, saving you time of having to go somewhere else to get this material or this product or whatever it might be. Facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient, easy drive lanes around the building, much more room to get your trailer loaded for what you need. Location may have changed, the values have not changed. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, pioneerboys.com.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Get a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $4,250 plus 4.9% for 72 months. Or get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months or 10% off MSRP. That's right. Come pick from the best selection of brand new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels in Waco while supplies last.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
As knowledgeable as you'll hear ever when it comes to a plethora of various sports, Chuck Cooper's team, voice of the Dallas Mavericks as well, with us on 365 Sports. I think, Chuck, you'd mentioned you were going to a press conference with Nico Harrison, with Mavericks executive. Anything from that? What was maybe the main theme?
That obviously this year wasn't good enough and that everybody has to look in the mirror. You know, that and he said that we're here, but that we're not going to be here next year. So, again, it was very broad-based, very few specifics, questions about Kyrie, but, again, none that he would answer, and understandably so. I mean, look, there's no reason to put yourself in any kind of corner until the actual moment of truth comes, and there's a lot of time, unfortunately, but there's a lot of time between now and June 30th.
In your gut, do you feel Kyrie is back, and then they mold the rest of the roster once they get that decision made?
Could not begin to tell you. I wish I could. I mean, I think, and it's my opinion, that he likes it here. Mm-hmm. I think he adores Jason Kidd. I mean, Jason Kidd was his idol growing up in New Jersey. He has a great relationship with Nico Harrison going back to his time with Nike. And I think he enjoyed, and this is my opinion, and I haven't asked him about it, but he enjoyed the less than fishbowl experience.
There you go.
That you have in Dallas versus if you're in New York or Philadelphia or Boston. Obviously two of those cities he's been to, or if you went to the Lakers. That's in Dallas. That's reserved for the Cowboys. It's not reserved for the Mavericks. And I think to the level of anonymity that a player of his ilk can have, he can find it here. And I think that is something that he may very well consider before, it's all said and done. It's one factor. Let's put it this way. It's not the deciding factor.
Chuck, everyone knows what they've read about him or maybe seen about him, because if they've never been around him, you've been around the NBA, you've done Mavericks games for a long, long time, and have seen him and covered games he played in. Was he different than perhaps you thought, or did you ever have that chance to really experience that?
Well, it's always different when you're watching somebody every night as opposed to watching, in the case of Kyrie, since he played his entire career in the East, you'd see him maybe twice a year. Sometimes if you're seeing teams like Memphis or Houston or New Orleans, you're seeing players 4 times a year. You get a lot better feel for them. But with Kyrie has had some monster games against the Mavericks in the past, so I've certainly seen him go off. And clearly, if you're enough of an NBA fan, you know what he did in Cleveland when they won the championship, and he was part of some very good teams in Boston too. So, but the thing is, when you're watching him every day, the offensive wizardry is just off the charts. How does a guy that small create that much space for himself to do the things that he does against much bigger people around the rim, and do it as efficiently as he does it? That's the thing that's amazing. I mean, Kyrie shot over 50% with the Mavericks. He shot nearly 40% from three. And it's not all away from the basket. In fact, a lot of his game is the mid-range game that a lot of people don't like, but he's really good at it. And so you let him do that type of stuff. But his ability to finish is absolutely spectacular. And that's the best word I can describe. But there is another end of the floor to play, and he is small, and they do offenses take advantage of the fact that he is small and winds up getting switched on to people that he may not be able to guard as well. And that's the biggest issue for the Mavericks going forward. And I think, Nico said it at the news conference today, we got to be a better defensive team. We got to be able to rebound the ball better. I mean, the numbers just scream at you that, and you didn't even need the numbers. Your eyes could tell you that too. So, how they're going to achieve all that, I don't know. But, I think in the end, everything that the Mavericks are saying is that they want Kyrie to be a part of the solution and that he's not a part of the problem.
Do you feel like, obviously perception is not reality all the time, but from the frustrating press conference that Jason Kidd had when they, kind of had to, accept the fate of what was going on around them for getting in the playoff in tournament to now, that the front office coaching's like everybody's in a good place about the offseason moving forward?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I haven't talked to them to that extent, and it's my opinion that I think that they ultimately feel like they've got 2 building blocks. And I think they're working under the assumption that they're going to be able to get Kyrie signed. But again, are they going to be able to do that? I don't know. Kyrie's had enough flighty moments in his career that I don't know that you really want to put anything in pen when it comes to him.
Yep.
But they know that there's work to do to get them back to where they were last year, and not even just as a Western Conference Finals team, but just as a team that is going to win 50 games and is going to compete night in and night out. Now, again, this team competed. It's not like this team was horrific. I mean, every game was a close game. I mean, all but 3 of their games post All-Star break were, by NBA definition, close games, plus or minus 5 points, plus or minus 5 minutes to play. But ultimately, when you're 18-18 in games decided by 5 points or fewer, and 8-12 in games decided by 3 or fewer, you haven't done your part late in the game. And it's not even so much what you have failed to do offensively as much as it can be what you have not done defensively. And look, the defining moment for me for the Mavericks this year came on February 11th in Sacramento. They're playing the second of a back-to-back with the Kings. They'd beaten Sacramento the first night, and that was Kyrie's second game. And this was the first game that Luka and Kyrie had played together. Mavericks had a 2-point lead in the final minute, and they, in a high-scoring game, they got the defense that they needed. They got the initial miss from Sacramento, but they didn't get the rebound. And Domantas Sabonis got the rebound, put it back in, and the game wound up going to overtime, and then De'Aaron Fox went nuts in overtime, and the Mavericks lost that game. Had the Mavericks won that game, they would have been third in the West. And here we are now. And they were never, ever the same after that.
So I know you love men's basketball. You love all sports, but men's basketball, you've done games for the NCAA tournament. You saw the L.J. Cryer news. He ends up in Houston for Kelvin Sampson. You had a reaction to that. And then I saw today on the Walter Clayton commitment to Florida, which, of course, you're a Florida alum, over his coach who he played for at Iona and Rick Pitino at St. John's.
Oh, the Clayton thing is stunning to me. I mean, given what Iona did last year and what Rick is going to be able to do at St. John's, even if the facilities at St. John's aren't great right now, what Rick is going to be able to do there is remarkable. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the great coaches of all time, and he's fantastic with guards. He's very hard to play for now. I will say that. I mean, look, he is incredibly demanding. But Clayton obviously showed himself to be a high major player. Playing for Rick. And given how Florida finished last year and the mess that they were offensively, I'm stunned. I'm absolutely stunned that Clayton made the move. Now, he's a Florida native, so I think there was some desire to kind of return home. But, I mean, if you're telling me that Rick Pitino is going to coach me and how many people he's put in the pros and the success that he's had in college, and now going to be playing at an even higher level, in the Big East, which pretty good league, I think we can all agree on. Or go to Florida, where the program really is in flux right now, and there are all kinds of questions about is Todd Golden really ready for this, and that he chose that. And it's not a 16-1 upset, but it's pretty damn close.
Chuck, do you think that could have anything to do with the Florida Victorious, the collective of the collectives trying to fix that mess that was there in Gainesville?
I mean, it could very well be, and that's a great point, Paul. I don't when I look at these things, I usually just look at them from a pure playing standpoint and sports standpoint, but there's obviously more involved here, and I don't doubt that there's probably a lot there, and probably something that's far more established than what St. John's has, and that maybe that could very well be the ultimate factor here. But and even going back to the Cryer thing, I think, and obviously, look, Scott Drew always has guards, and he'll have guards next year too. But I'm sure he would have preferred to have a proven scorer on his team, a guy that he knows is going to get buckets for him, as opposed to kind of hoping that you have people step up into that role. And he's going to be great in Houston. I mean, he's now. I will say this. I think he played hard all the time for Scott Drew. I think Kelvin takes it to a different level, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And LJ's he better get ready for getting barked at. Because he's going to get barked at.
No question about it. All right, last thing. The Masters wrapped up, of course, late Sunday. Rahm catches Koepka, ends up winning fairly comfortably. Mickelson made a run. Koepka, of course, was brilliant for 3+ rounds. But your thoughts, the roars, and I know you had a game, but the roars and the atmosphere at Augusta National and your thoughts about all the storylines.
Well, again, I didn't see much of the final round because I was working. I watched the last 4 holes, and by then it seemed like the tournament was pretty well over. So it wasn't, the craziness that you can get at Augusta on Sunday, from what I could tell. But look, I mean, Live versus the Tour is going to be a storyline, whether anybody really likes it or not. The comparison of those players playing on different tours. And in the end, it's not a bad thing, right? And especially with the performance of Koepka and Mickelson and Patrick Reed, they're all hanging in there in the top 5 or 6, and it just shows. People were saying that Liv doesn't have players and they're over the hill, or they're just cashing in, playing for the cash and they don't care. I mean, there's nothing that could be further from the truth. And at the same time, obviously the tour has some great young players, and John Rahm is still young, and he is at the top of the world right now. And there are just a bunch of other players that, whether it's Jordan Spieth or Scotty Scheffler or Sam Burns, I mean, any of those guys, Max Homa, who didn't play particularly well this week. I mean, they're all more than capable. The game itself is in great shape, and if nothing else, what it does, as much as we want to see these guys play against each other every week, it does make those 4 majors monstrous. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, even more must-watch television than we normally would, just because it's that the whole notion of supply and demand, and the scarcity of the times that these guys are going to get together. At some point, if Liv really is able to establish itself, wouldn't it be cool to see a PGA versus Liv match? That type of thing. Let alone anything that you see at the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup or anything like that.
Chuck, thank you as always, buddy. Appreciate your time. Great stuff as always. Chuck Cooperstein,
thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Voice of the Mavericks with us. Again, Nico Harrison had the press conference earlier, saying all the right things. They understand what they have. The Mavericks have a history, though, of not being able to close a few of the deals. Remember Jalen Brunson, who's having a brilliant year for the Knicks. That may have been more interference with what the personal part of the family wanted. He's having a great year. But there have been others that they've struck out with, like the Rangers used to do for quite a long time. And they have them right there with Luka and Kyrie. Now can they keep that band together, so to speak, into the future for a chance to then surround them with better players and make them a true contender. All right, coming up, Patrick Crates, media consultant. We have had a group of them. We have fantastic insight, whether it's Jim Williams or Bob Thompson or Patrick Crates or others. And we want Evan Weiner. We want to always give you different perspective. I've seen Bob and Jim going back and forth a little bit on Twitter about some of the information out there. Here's a question for Jim Williams a minute ago. A question to the group. Do you stream any sports, and if so, what teams and where? I know soccer fans have been on to Paramount Plus, ESPN Plus, at Peacock, and now Apple TV. I stream part of watching the Masters on ESPN on my app, on my phone.
I stream what I have to. So
there you go.
It's not something that I do because I didn't get a streaming package I did. I mean, ESPN Plus, well, based on what I have it anyway. But I only go to it because, Florida State versus Jacksonville State, I don't know why that one came to my mind, but I did have to watch that on ESPN. I remember thinking, I'm paying $6.95 to watch this BS right now. But that was on ESPN Plus. I had to watch that there. Or I'm not at home, right? I'm on the road and I want to watch something, so I go to the streaming to watch it there. So, yeah, I go there when I have to. Baylor plays on, here in this room, we stream sports because we have to, because that's what we have.
All right, when we come back, Patrick Crates on that. Also, thoughts about the NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube and how that works. He is next. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist's office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Craig is at Baylor football practice. We'll be back momentarily, and then Baylor has a football media session with that after their practice ends a little bit after 6, and so he'll be back in a moment. Right now, Paul Catalina, David Smoak with you on 365 Sports. We have been very fortunate over the last couple of years since Texas, OU, and then USC and UCLA to get to know people who have been in behind the scenes in these decision-making type environments with Patrick Crates, Bob Thompson, Jim Williams, and others. And Patrick Crates, consultant media executive, joins us on 365 Sports. Patrick, nothing really has changed when it comes to the Pac-12 since we had you on last, which I think was a couple of months ago. But has anything changed in your mind?
Well, I guess what I think might have changed is that the kind of the noose is the wrong word. The corral around media rights overall is beginning to kind of be complete. We've got this distribution system I've talked about that's declining in revenue but produces all the revenue everybody consumes. We've got this new system that struggles to make revenue. And content costs are starting to come in because of that. You see it heavily on the entertainment side. You're seeing stress on the sports media side. As before I thought Thursday Night Football was an example of it, even though it worked out well for the NFL. The established system didn't want it. MLS couldn't get what they wanted, so they went to Apple. It's a bold move, but it comes with some risk. And now the Pac-12 going last of the Power Five and kind of this dance media rights for the next half decade is struggling to find their proper home. And the leaving of USC and UCLA makes it infinitely more complicated.
Pat, do you think that going to a different company, like, the CW has been bandied about as someone who would be potentially interested and might have kicked the tires a little bit on the Pac-12. Is that a good thing for not only Nexstar, who just bought them, but the Pac-12 to maybe start something new if that's what they're pushed to?
Well, look, I'm a firm believer that these large station groups that came about because of retransmission fees that come from pay TV bundles are going to be a great outlet for Tier 2 and Tier 3 sports in particular, sports that don't currently get rights fees or don't need rights fees to support their elite status. But for the handful of Tier 1 sports in the United States, of which the Pac-12 is one that gets hundreds of millions of dollars in rights fees in a year, I'm baffled without these station groups using their retransmission fees, which they've never done, to pay upfront rights fees. They can match any of that or grow that economics. It would all have to be advertising based. And just for all the listeners, just so they understand, when it comes to rights fees, it's 75-80% pay TV fees that fund those. The advertising is 20% of that. So you really got to have somebody prepared to put up their pay TV fees that they get from a sub fee from ESPN, or the retransmission fee that they get from a broadcast television network, which is what a station group like Nexstar would have with their network with the CW. I don't see that happening, guys. The big media companies have lots of different revenue streams from those two sources, plus advertising that come from lots of media networks and lots of properties. The station basically have one that comes from their stations. And it's not a good fit, because if you do end up there, right, with the majority of your inventory, I don't know how you're going to get a rights fee. If you do get a rights fee, I don't know how it's supported. I don't know how it stays where it is. So I don't feel it's a good fit for a majority of their inventory. It may be a decent fit for a small amount of it, but I really don't like it.
So with that being said, it seems like there's, whether or not there's a gray area of what Fox still might be wanting to do, if at all, or ESPN wanting to do, if at all. What other options are there with the Pac-12 and linear? Are those the only options? They just hope they can get something out of them?
I don't know that there's look, there's the most obvious options. Look, there's not a lot of shelf space left, but the truth of the matter is you can find shelf space. And in the case of ESPN, there's shelf space that they can make. And the question is, what's the mix going to be between linear and digital? And with Fox, I could see them saying that they take a small amount of this inventory. Remember that both Fox and ESPN, because of that late Pac-12 window, in their pay TV subs, the sub fees for those two channels, a certain amount of that comes from the Pac-12. The reason why the Pac-12 got the bump they got, why it was such a good TV deal for them, throw out the channel, right? Throw out Pac-12 networks. Look at their TV deal with Fox and ESPN. At the time, it was a great deal, and it was primarily because pay TV could be monetized with that late window with high-quality college football. So, Fox has to kind of figure that out in the negotiation. If they lose it, they can, because they have increased Big Ten inventory. They probably figure they can do better, right? But at the same time, there might be some space there. And then ESPN can take a lot of this, I think, and I don't know that ESPN wants to lose any of this. This is a question of, I think, the right mix of distribution and economics, and that happens sometimes in negotiations. And then, of course, you have the streamers who, there's a narrative about what they're trying to do, and then there's the practical reality. If the streamers really wanted this product, they'd overpay a little bit now and lock it up, and they haven't done that, which tells you a lot about where they're really at in their strategy. I don't know that you want to go 100% streaming. As I think I mentioned in the press this week, there's a lot of problems with that when it comes to reach, and the Pac-12 really does still need reach. We're not at the day and age where a streamer can produce the kind of reach you can still get on linear networks. And you just have to be careful with going 100% in on that.
What do you think? I mean, look, the NFL's going, 100% streaming with their Sunday ticket now with YouTube TV. Do you think that is the test case for this a little bit? And maybe the next TV deal, people will see what's going on with how many people, that like me, I'm a DirecTV subscriber. I don't know if I'm going to go over to YouTube TV or not and do that for 100% streaming model.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that. YouTube TV is a digital package of pay TV channels. It's exactly like what you would get at Comcast or DirecTV. It's just digital. And the economics of that bundle are the same. The only problem is it doesn't have any of the unique characteristics of the established bundle, like natural monopoly and government rate regulation that made them so profitable. They're part of the problem. The cost of those channels are the same in those digital bundles, but the revenue isn't the same, right? Because customers aren't locked up for 2 years. So YouTube TV proper is a package of bundles. The reason why Sunday Ticket makes sense for Google and didn't make sense for anybody else is because think about what Sunday Ticket did with DirecTV for, 25 some odd years. It basically was a marketing tool that sold a package of channels. And YouTube TV is a package of channels, and Sunday Ticket is a marketing tool for that. Now, they're also going to offer it off in channels, and sell it as just a standalone retail product. But right now, it's more expensive than XX a monthly Netflix subscription. So I don't think it's a good model for what we're looking for with the Pac-12. But Sunday Ticket's its own critter. It's a very misunderstood product. Currently today, in the way the NFL allocates their games, there's 3 to 4 national windows every week. It's the 4th best game in your market. It's not the same as it was in '95 when it was clearly many weeks the 2nd best game in your market, maybe the 1st. And you couldn't get it because, at the most you got 3 games in the market. No sold them on Sunday except for 1 on Monday night. So I don't think it's a good model for this. And it's not a test for streaming. I think that when it comes to streaming is incremental to the current system. And for tier 1 properties, there's no flip switch here to where that's going to be 100% good for them. Unless they have some kind of specific needs, like a 25-year-old leg like the MLS that couldn't grow its rights fee anymore and have to go take that kind of big jump to go into the Apple paywall. It comes with, Apple represents 4% of all video minutes consumed across, something less than 4% of all video minutes consumed across all platforms. That's a real reduction in reach. So I don't like it for the Pac-12. I don't think the Sunday Ticket's a good test of streaming. I think streaming is incremental to the current system. And that's why something like ESPN makes so much sense, because ESPN is broadcast, they have 4 linear channels, and they've got a well-distributed streaming product.
Pat, while you've been on with us, Pete Thamel, ESPN, the Big Ten expected to hire former Major League Baseball and CBS Sports executive Tony Petitti as their next commissioner. Do you know Tony?
I know Tony. I've sat in some meetings with Tony. He's a great executive. He's tough. He's a great executive, and he's very close with some friends of mine. So I'm super happy for Tony, and I think they made a good choice. That's a good choice. Yeah, I know Kevin. Some of the schools weren't thrilled with Kevin. Kevin was a good choice too, right? He was actually turned out to be the right commissioner for them at the right time. When you look at 10 years from now, it's a transformative, right, expansion. And he was the right guy to do it. You had to be an outsider, I think, to see that. But, Tony is not a college insider, but, he understands television and he understands big time sports. And he's a good thinker. So I think the Big Ten got a good guy, and he is tough. And the Fox guy's got to be going like, well, here it is. This is going to be fun.
I'm not trying to compare him to Brett Yormark when he was hired, but he was another guy that was kind of outside of the business in a way. Is this similar or not?
Well, Brett is a deal maker. And Brett, while he was an outsider, had done a lot of media deals, including deals with Fox. He did them with David Nathanson and myself for some boxing deals. I know Brett, and I think a lot of Brett. And one of the first things Brett did was he went out and got Karen Brodkin to advise him, another former Fox executive who I'm a friend with. And she immediately told Brett that it was a crisis and he needed to treat it as such. And he needed to lock everybody down so you get through the kind of this distribution, 5 years of disruption so that when the next round of realignment comes, everything's in one place. And they accomplished that. He treated it like a crisis. With Tony, the Big Ten's not this is an operational execution strategy now, right? Tony is a great operator and has a strong management background. And I think that he's a good choice for this because, there may be more expansion in the Big Ten, there may not, but this is an execution story now for the Big Ten, and he's a great executor.
Well, how much of a loss will he be for Major League Baseball at a time where they need good executors?
Well, Tony left baseball a couple of years ago.
So now he's at CBS now. I had it transposed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's no, I think he's running his own ventures now.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a couple of friends that serve on a board with one of his boards. He's tanned and rested, as they say. Coming out of Arizona, I think hard for this. So I think he's in Arizona these days. But he's just got a lot of operational experience. And he understands the media business, and he brings a fresh perspective, but a familiar perspective. And again, I think this is an execution story for the next 5 years for the Big Ten, and he knows how to do things like that.
Well, I'm not trying to stalk the guy, but I just went to images of Tony Petitti, and you're right. He's tanned and rested. That's exactly right. He's going to jump into something, but he's ready to do it. You made a comment in a story on CBS Sports about the numbers for Oregon State, Washington State. If in first week in November on FS1 would be 650 to 800,000 viewers, but on a streamer it would be less than half of that. Probably 30%, 40%, maybe 50%. Is that not the danger of streaming, but that's kind of the I guess normal percentage there?
Well, I'm basing it off of how the NFL did when Thursday Night Football moved over to Amazon, right? So down 40% approximately, right? Well, that's the NFL, the most important, most watched, most viewed media property in the United States. So if you're an Oregon State, Washington State game, which you have to worry about, you have to love all your children if you're conference commercial. And you have to worry about the exposure those schools get. And you're sitting over there on a streamer on a college football Saturday, and throw out the fact that the pay TV bundle for a college football Saturday used to create this organic environment of finding football games. All you needed to know was where all your broadcast channels were, and 5 or 6 different pay TV channels, and from noon until freaking midnight, you could find all sorts of college football games you wanted to watch. If you're sitting over on a streamer, you're out there by yourself. And there's no organic discovery or circulation set, as I like to call it. That old pay TV bundle and that bad programming guide everybody hated was part of a circulation set. And I used to liken it when I used to talk about this when I was at Fox to a heart beating through a circulatory system. So I called it a circulation set. And you just don't have that over on the streamers. You have incremental paywalls. You have effort you have to get through. And college football is a general market product, guys. And, what's one thing when you're talking about really hardcore fans who are prepared to run through a wall for something. But the reason why these sports become tier 1 sports is because they reach people who don't watch regularly. And part of that is made easy by that old ecosystem we had for 30 years, now kind of going away. So when you jump all this content out into new types of distribution with different kind of paywalls, it slows down the ability of people to find it and watch it and stick with it. So it's going to impact anything. It impacted the NFL. Why wouldn't it impact even more Washington State and Oregon State? I think, you got to think about that if you're a conference commissioner. I mean, how much of this do you want? And 100% would not be the right answer, in my opinion.
Pat, one more thing about the Pac-12. And they're on the clock, obviously. Could they have, obviously USC, UCLA, and that story and the Big Ten caught a lot of people off guard, just like Texas, Oklahoma in some ways. That's over. But could they also be trapped in what is basically the wrong time to try to get a media deal done because of the fact that most of these places are cutting back a lot and trying not to just throw money at everybody like they've been doing for years?
Yeah. So I think, so the Pac-12 is in kind of a not a great spot at the moment, but I do think they're going to be okay. right? Because they're the Pac-12. Even without USC and UCLA, big-time college football's never been worth more, guys, and they're still a part of it. And so I think it'll work out for them. But the point is well taken. If I'm right that we're going to a less profitable media business, and that means a less profitable sports media business, that doesn't necessarily follow that the NFL isn't going to make as much money as they ever did, or big-time college football won't. But other places may get squeezed, or other parts of those sports may get squeezed because how you allocate capital is increasingly going to the things that people watch the most. If already college sports followed extreme power laws, right, where a couple entities on one end of the curve get most of the value, we're going to an era where it's going to be even bigger. And the newest NFL deal kind of recognizes that. And this Big Ten realignment and SEC realignment recognizes that. And so, college football playoff is going to get what it needs. But does that mean that all the college conferences, to include, the Pac-12, has to worry that they might accidentally slip into that mold, where they're not going to actually get carried up with kind of the extreme power law, with the far end of the curve and draft off those economics? They're going to get caught on the other side of it, where they start having to make hard choices about where their distribution really is. You don't want to be that person in this era we're about to go through, because if it's a less profitable media world, the people who pay the bills have to make choices about where the economics go.
And then perhaps that's what Brett Yormark did brilliantly by getting that done for the Big 12. Even though they could have gotten more, they got stability and extension.
Yeah, I think what Brett realized was this is a crisis. And he knew enough about media, right, to understand that. And with Karen as his advisor, he sorted that out and went out and locked down the Commons and put them in a position to be ready to deal after this distribution evolution kind of maelstrom stabilizes in 3 to 5 years. And also the college football playoff is renegotiated and kind of sorted that out. There's more money in the system probably to digest expansion and mergers and such, and a kind of realignment that takes college football to its next level. They're in position to do that. Are they in position to absorb more schools? I don't believe any of that. But it doesn't mean that it's wrong that Brett isn't out selling every day, right? Doesn't mean that he's wrong to make all these conversations. I just don't think there's any money in the system currently to expand right now anywhere. I just don't think that's true. But at the same time, he's got the conference positioned to expand if somehow a great deal emerged, they're in a position to do it.
Yep.
So he did achieve that, and it was because he recognized it was a crisis, and that was the difference.
Pat, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Always appreciate your time and knowledge, insight. Pat Crakes, again, media consultant, executive with us on 365 Sports. His reaction to Tony Petitti being hired, or the news by Pete Thamel, now others are confirming it, as the new Big Ten commissioner. He was laughing out loud because he knows him so well and knows a lot of people that know Tony Petitti. And he is, as in fact reported, former Major League Baseball CBS Sports executive, is now the new commissioner of the Big Ten. So that's another one of those floating, something's got to fall there. And today, the ACC, Jim Phillips extended. Today, Tony Petitti named the new commissioner of the Big Ten. This is 365 Sports. We'll have John McClain coming up next.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for great customer service, a great deal, just great everything. The entire process and buying a vehicle or getting your vehicle fixed up is made easier by the fine folks over at Richard Carr, who are right now celebrating their 24th anniversary sales event, which means big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks and special savings specifically on GMC Sierra and Buick Envision SUVs. They've got dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now, and qualified buyers can save $3,000 on a new 2023 GMC Sierra SLT or SLE 1500. Qualified buyers can also get 2.9% financing on the new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. If you're looking for more of the SUV style and you want a little bit of luxury mixed in with that as well, but not so much that luxurious price tag, well, then you need to experience the smooth and quiet ride of the 2023 Buick Encore, Envision, or Enclave models. Right now, qualified buyers can get low financing plus save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premiums or $3,500 on the Buick Enclave Avenir. And they also have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock as well. Many of them under $20,000, affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has vehicles ready to drive home today. And if you just want to drive your car or truck or SUV a little while longer, their award-winning service department is standing by as well to keep you on the road. So go to the website, richardcarr.com, to see service specials and also set an appointment for quick and reliable care. For 24 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Log on to richardcarr.com today. The dealership run by proud Central Texans. Either visit the website, call them now, or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line. TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at goarmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at gallerysports.com and sportsradio610.com.
John McClain with us on Tuesdays. The NFL draft a couple of weeks away, and he joins us here on 365 Sports. So, John, is it a given that the Texans take a quarterback with their first pick in the first round?
I certainly believe it is. There's a lot of national media that don't think so, and the closer we get, the wilder the speculation is, and a lot of people believe everything they read and hear. I believe very little of it. And one of the things they're saying is, if the Texans are involved in if the Texans were involved in trade talks with Carolina, that was reported by Peter King and Albert Breer, and that means they got one quarterback they like specifically. So if they don't get that quarterback, would they pivot to, say, an edge rusher like Alabama's Will Anderson, who's a tremendous prospect? And they do need an edge rusher, and everybody loves Will Anderson Jr., but there's one problem. Who's going to be the quarterback in D'Amico Ryans' first season? Davis Mills, who they've given up on, Case Keenum, who they signed to be a backup. That's like those reports just leave that little part out of it. That's why I tell people that this is what I believe about Young and Stroud. And I wrote a column last week, a deep dive on both of those guys, in which I talked to people at the league meetings. I checked with everybody I trust to see, what they thought of them as prospects. And both of them are great prospects. And it's like picking between a Mercedes, top-of-the-line Mercedes, and a top-of-the-line BMW. And you might like the Mercedes a little more, so you don't get it. Somebody else buys it. But you love the BMW too, so you take the BMW, and you don't look back. That's what you got with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud.
John, there was scuttlebutt this week, a theory that the Texans don't like Stroud's agent because he's also Deshaun Watson's agent. That's kind of silly too, isn't it?
That's silly, and anybody thinks that's an issue is clueless. David Mulligetta from Austin, who works for Athletes First, I'm sure he loves the Texans. He negotiated a great contract there for Watson. He even got the Texans to include a no-trade clause. He did what he's supposed to do for his client. And then his client got in trouble, no fault of the Texans, and he got him to Cleveland for $230 million, the greatest contract ever negotiated in the NFL. So the Texans have done everything David Mulligetta wants. And so every once in a while you'll see in baseball, some teams don't want to deal with Scott Boras because he's all about the money, and he has so many clients and he drives such a hard bargain. But in football, you don't see that.
John, what is the biggest offseason story that doesn't pertain to the draft for the Texans? And I guess I understand that increased quarterback play is draft related, but I would include that just in general. What is, I guess, not grabbing Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, the biggest story outside of having those top picks?
Well, the coaching. If it's not involved in the draft, it'd be the coaching. D'Amico Ryans is first-year head coach after being a great coordinator the last 2 years with the 49ers, where he spent 6 seasons. The other one is Bobby Slowick, who came with him from the 49ers. Bobby's offensive coordinator, play caller. Kyle Shanahan thinks he's going to be head coach in the NFL, and people know he would have had a better chance to do it quicker had he stayed with the 49ers. But he wanted to come here. He wanted to call plays. He wanted to discover the pitfalls of that, more responsibility, which he thinks in the long run will help him be a better head coach. So people here wondered for the first time, having a first-time offensive coordinator and how that's going to pan out with a new quarterback and a lot of new players on offense.
Was the Odell Beckham signing by Baltimore also trying to hook in or secure Lamar Jackson, or is there so far apart it wouldn't matter?
Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere. Where's he going to go? Is he going to retire? And if somebody were going to sign him to an offer sheet, wouldn't they have already done it? The NFL does not want to go the Cleveland route and give up a guaranteed contract. And if you're going to do it, you do it for Patrick Mahomes first and foremost, maybe Joe Burrow, but I don't think he's going anywhere. He's not going to retire. He's not going to sit out in this $32 million, which is more than he's made in his career. I think Beckham going there for 2 reasons. He got a contract that looks terrible for the Ravens, $15 million guaranteed for a guy who's just had his knee repaired twice. But the Ravens need a number 1 receiver. And where if he'd have gone to the Jets, he might have been the 3rd receiver. So it was smart for him to go to the Ravens. And people say, well, he wouldn't have gone there if Lamar Jackson hadn't told him he'll be there. For $15 million guaranteed, when he said at one point nobody was offered more than 4, I think he'd gone there no matter Who's playing quarterback?
John McClain, Houston Chronicle for many, many years. Of course, now a part of GallerySports.com and 610 Sports Radio in Houston with us. The NFL draft is a week and a half away. John, how much change of mind is there over these next few days leading up to the draft on the draft board?
One of the things that teams do, everybody is allowed to bring in 30 players for visits. You can have them for the day. They can't work out here. If you want to work them out, you got to go to them. I don't know what at this point you could see after watching on tape, pro day, combine, plus the fact you can work them out on your own if you want to. And the only good thing about a private workout is you orchestrate it. It's not like the pro day where the players rehearsed it with his receiver and his quarterback guru for weeks. And a lot of teams like to do that. A lot of teams put a lot of emphasis on seeing things like what the Texans saw in 2017 with Deshaun Watson. When he came to Houston, he went to NRG Stadium. Everywhere he went, when there were veterans working out, those veterans gravitated to him. And they watched to see how he handled that because he had cred. He had that street cred from winning a national championship over Alabama. And turned out to be, as on the field, turned out to be a great pick. And they're looking for that. Now, as far as scouting, and right before the draft, teams will have what's called cross-scouting, where they will have a defensive line coach look at offensive linemen, vice versa, and get their opinion on them. But by and large, if you don't know about the prospect at this point, you're not very good at what you do.
John, the Titans are in an interesting position with Ryan Tannehill expiring deal, Derrick Henry on an expiring deal, Rand Carthon's been brought in to rebuild them. Do you think that this is a tear-it-down draft for Tennessee?
If they're going to tear it down and start over, they're not going to be able to trade up to get a quarterback because it's going to cost them too much to do that. As long as Derrick Henry's on the team, he's 29, coming off a great season. As long as he's there, I don't see him rebuilding. If they're going to rebuild, they need to trade him and try to get another running back. Remember, he was a second-round pick. He didn't play a lot early. He didn't get all these carries, all this mileage on his tires for the last four years. And but it's Tannehill. Everybody knows Tannehill's last season. They don't like Malik Willis, but they're going to have to give up a lot. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. You can trade in 2025, but most teams aren't thinking that far ahead because GMs, a lot of them be out of work by 2025. But anybody that watched Tannehill get hurt last season and how he struggled, he is not the quarterback he was when he had A.J. Brown. And they have a totally rebuilt offensive line. They need receivers. And so I'm not sure what they're going to do. I'll be surprised if they trade up to get a quarterback. I would not be surprised if they took University of Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker. That'd be a great spot for him.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Stick on.
There you go. John McClain with us, GallerySports.com. Houston 610, also with us on Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. The Big Ten commissioner, Tony Petitti, as we had while we were discussing various things about college athletics, media rights, etc., networks, linear streaming with Patrick Crate. So that story is down. So all the commissioners are all set now, right? And with Jim Phillips getting his extension and Petitti now the new commissioner of the Big Ten. When we come back, Paul Catalina at his top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 thoughts about Jim Phillips returning to the ACC on a 3-year deal. Look, I'll just get you right out of the way. The Big Ten ruined number 5 by hiring. I said they have one less candidate. And I kind of thought that this might be coming. I just kind of hoped when I made this it wasn't going to be today, like maybe tomorrow, that they would do this. But never going to sneeze at breaking news. So, Jim Phillips was apparently a candidate for that job. But clearly they've gone at I don't know if he was, given the fact that or if he was, they just decided to go in the direction that the Pac-12, they did, and the Big 12 have, and getting somebody from outside the college
was there any
athletics box.
Correlation to Phillips' extension and the Big Ten announcing Petiti today?
Oh, I think I don't think it's a coincidence.
There's absolutely no chance that it'll happen on the same day and was not related somehow or another. Come on. That's just, that's the timing of that. It would have to be 1 in quadrillion chance that would happen on the same day, I would think. So, yeah absolutely.
Yeah. So, there he is. He's got a 3-year extension of the Big Ten, has their commissioner in Jim Petiti, and we'll see how that works out. Number 4, I would say don't expect now that Jim Phillips is back a lot of bow rocking on the East Coast. He's not that good. Jim Phillips is the anti-Kevin Warren, right? He's the opposite of that. He's the one who's, trying to keep it this way. He was the one who was against the playoff expansion and was one of Kevin Warren's pawns. So I don't expect to see, and granted, there's not a lot of bow rocking they can do, but a lot of things to come out of the ACC that are necessarily world-changing over the next 3 years with Jim Phillips.
Yeah, and I don't know what there could have been anyways. With that contract they have, I guess you have some teams talking out of turn or bumping their gums when they feel necessary to, and I'm sure that could continue to some extent with Florida State or whoever else deems themselves as, having not gotten their full slice given their weight that they've thrown around in that conference. But, yeah, that's just more solidifying what's already solidified for another 15 years or so or whatever. I keep forgetting when that deal's actually
36 or 7?
Yeah, so close enough. That is 15 years, close enough. So, yeah, it's just the same. And the boat rocking will be, something to be on the lookout for, though, for them, I would imagine, because it'll come from within, but not so much outside.
Yeah. Number 3, small schools keep a good advocate. So the Boston colleges and the Wake Forest do. Jim Phillips is like that. I think is one of his true strengths because he's in a conference that has a very wide array of schools that have different lots in life, and he's been a good advocate for them and keeping things together and moving forward with a unified vision. And they're going to need that given the fact that some of the bigger ones and the bigger brands appear kind of annoyed with that arrangement right now. So, but they do keep a good advocate. Jim Phillips has been a good advocate for those schools and kind of making sure that they still have their place in all this, because it can be real easy. Like, it could be easy for any conference commissioner, honestly, to do what happened in the Big 12, which is everybody else is here, but I'm only listening to a couple of them. Okay, everybody go around once at the meeting, and then you get to Texas and Oklahoma, and
they get longer
and
time,
they get longer and all this. Like, okay, here's what we're really going to do. We'll put that in the notes. Thanks for being here. So he's been, I think, really good about all this, and I'll talk about the big schools at number 1, but I do think he's been good for them in that regard.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know much about his dealings with some of that day-to-day stuff, but they all seem happy with him. So that's not coming from a Texas OU type of situation. It seems like everybody's pretty on board.
Yeah. Number 2, I'm not sure that the ACC could have a your mark type right now. I mean, like you just said it, Craig. That deal is so big. What, other than like bringing in maybe some of the outside stuff, if there's an ACC concert series or the pro day, or copying some of those ideas, or trying to expand their footprint in basketball, which I'm surprised they haven't really already done, because they were a good basketball league really before the Big 12 was.
Oh yeah,
and so maybe doing all that, like outside of that stuff, I'm not sure they can have an earth mover right now, because what are they going to do? Because the media rights, it centers around all that, and that's not changing until 2036.
They're locked in. Yep.
Yeah, there's no need for ACC Mexico or, whatever, ideas that Brett Yormark has come up with, basketball camps in New York City and things like that. Yeah, they don't have the need for that. So, yeah, with no TV deal and no, water infiltrating the lower deck, they're pretty well set up and don't need to kind of flesh out some of those things.
That's one of the things, by the way. I know you listen to Mac when you get back home, but we asked him about Big 12 Mexico and a few of those things about that are on the radar with Yormark.
Yeah. And number 1, the big dogs clearly trust him. And so, because it could have been one of those things where, look, we need some things to change, and maybe bringing in a different commissioner will do that. But if Florida State, Miami, Clemson, North Carolina had a problem with Jim Phillips, he's probably not getting an extension right now. Even if he is interviewing with the Big Ten, then maybe like, fine, take him, Big Ten. We want something different, and we'll get a new conference commissioner. We'll go get a Tony Petitti or a Brett Yormark, which may happen eventually. But for right now, they feel comfortable with him. So, and the ACC has to figure some things out. So they probably do need some stability in that to be able to have some reasonable discussions about how do you bridge this income gap with a deal that you could not have predicted would age this poorly.
How many people know the ACC better than Jim Phillips? How long has he been there?
Let's see, since Swofford, so 2015 or so.
Okay, he's been around a while. He knows where the rooms are, the skeletons are buried, etc.
Yeah.
I want to know why Florida State was first on that list, going left to right.
Look, Emory makes the graphics. He just knows, they got to make Big Papa happy.
Under the table payment.
No, you just got to know you got to make Big Papa happy.
Okay,
that's what you do.
Good job, Emory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they came together to vote on this or approve it or whatever, but even if they didn't trust him, then they'd still get outvoted 11-3 or what have you. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're fully on board, and again, nobody's going anywhere in the foreseeable future. So yeah, I mean, they got to all be on the same page, and it seems as though he did enough of a job these last several years to ensure that he's got this this all ahead of him still for the foreseeable future. So, yeah, they're all on board, and that's a good thing for the ACC, although we know that there will be some things to settle, and that will be one of his main, I guess, to-dos. Will be getting in a room, I'm sure, with Florida State and room with Clemson and being like, all right, guys, let's talk about the future and revenue sharing and things like that. But, yeah, he's got a good foot already in the door, and that should bode well for them.
Let's do it above the table, not
right.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, I mean, they've got the ACC. That's a great point, guys. Has an opportunity here to be like, look, we've seen what everybody else has done to each other, and that I know that. Look, there is you have to fight for yourself first, but let's remember here what's all at stake. And so I think that's probably good to remind yourself while you still have this time before those schools can be like, all right, we'll see you.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this. I don't agree with everything Stuart Mandel says. It's like anybody else. You just kind of you just see things flying across. But I thought that this was interesting. For a group of people who continually claim they don't want college athletics to become professionalized, university presidents sure seem to like hiring former pro sports execs as their commissioners, which is a very fair point. And he went on to point out that they don't have a TV deal coming up. So then he did. All these people complain about realignment talk and all this kind of stuff. So tell me how intentional this was. Unless, of course, they're planning to add more schools, cough, cough, Oregon and Washington, and get right back into that. But, it seems like the Big Ten's got somebody who's not going to do so much of the finagling and the, trying to talk with Fox. All that's done, so he can kind of round out the rest of it.
I think university presidents, for the most part, saying that they don't want the professionalization, but then doing that is them admitting that it's already on the tracks.
Yes.
But it's one of those things you can't say in their position. You can't kind of say it out loud because they have to deal with more than just the athletic side. Because if they just said, like, look, we've got to do this, then they've got all their academia people going, hey, what's going on here? What about me? What about me? What about this? And it's just something you can't.
We don't even ever get to that point. Yeah.
No, but it's true, but you can't say it out loud because you're going to sound like a jerk.
St. Dominic's Rosary, I'm just glad Kevin Warren is gone. Let's see, a couple of others that calm down here. Paul's having a bad string of luck with the top 5 because of the Big Ten's announcement today for TD.
Yeah.
There we go with a lot of people. By the way,
speaking things into existence, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. And then also there's a replay of what we do, segments or the show, and then some of you have responses and questions, and one of them was about the audio. How about this? Dan Avall, who I sent you guys the audio, and he's I sent him back a note that we had talked about it. We're trying to work on it if we can, but if we can't, it's because it won't sound any better. I'm actually parked in a semi at the Continental Divide, 7,300 feet in New Mexico, waiting to load tomorrow. I appreciate the response. Love what you guys do. Crank it to 11. Some of the old guys will get that when it comes to the volume based on how you do pick us up and listen to us. Emery Winter, thank you very much, Dan Avall, and be careful with that large 18-wheeler. You're bringing all that back. Thank you, Emery Winter. Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie was here. He's at Football Media. Craig's going to be there. Craig was at practice. Paul Catalina, great stuff. Thanks to all of our fantastic sponsors. Tomorrow we have Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, among some other guests that we'll bring to the table. Also, a few more college writers, analysts, etc., on the spring games that have, of course, a timeline of this weekend or next. Our great sponsors. I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. This is 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open